Hello. Hi, welcome back. How are you? Happy hump day. Woo woo. I'm back on hump day. Hi. I know. Don't come for me. I owe you guys. I owe you guys because my tummy hurt last night. I couldn't come live. I drank all the Patron and threw up everywhere. Just kidding. Do I sound like Mackenzie? Hi, everyone. Hi. I wish. Hello. Like the intro. Thank you. Hey. Hi. Okay. We're gonna be done with 2020. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I was just gonna get right into it, baby. Let's get this started. Okay, so let's talk. First of all, did you hit the like button? Are you subscribed? Turn on your notifications. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make it up to you guys for missing last night. So Friday, after noon, my time, I will be doing two Mackenzie lives. So we'll be doing Mackenzie 2 or 3 times on Friday. I want to try to get through the next year as fast as I can. Don't hate me because I'm not going to skip. People want me to skip. I know. Don't be mad. And if you cheat, we're going to have issues. There's going to be issues. Don't cheat. We're going to get through it. I will try to go live as much as I can this week with Mackenzie. I try to keep up with the other cases as well. I'm not just the Mackenzie channel. I know, sad. But I do promise to do extra Mackenzie lives on Friday. That is my day off. So an extra day off because I figured we need to get caught up. So we will be doing an extended Mackenzie, kind of like a mini marathon. I'll probably break it into 2 lives just because I don't want one live to be 6 hours, but I don't know. If whatever happens, I don't know. I can't predict the future, but I will be live an additional time on Mackenzie on Friday. So please make sure your notifications are on. We are on the last month of 2020, going into 2021. People are asking me to skip, and I don't want to. I know I don't want to. I don't want to skip. So I guess I'll promise to be more live. What? Do I know how to talk English? No. Be on live more regarding Mackenzie. There we go. Anyways, I've had a day. I didn't really have time to get ready, so please excuse me. I haven't washed my hair. I haven't showered in 24 days at this point. So let's get started. We left off on, let me try to remember. I don't remember what was going on. It is December. She's calling him. Okay, we're going to go back a few pages just to get caught up. And hello, everyone. Shout out to all of you. Hey, Cree. I know I don't want to cheat. I don't want to cut. I don't want to skip any. I want to know everything. We can make cake pops. Hey, Stephanie. Hi, let me say hi to everyone. Remy, Mallory, Cara, Cantarella, Kimmy, Sunshine. G says my boyfriend's. I have to go back to that. Oh, yeah. G says my boyfriend woke up to listening to Melly, and he's like, you don't even reply to anyone's messages, yet you listen to hours of this weirdo saying bet, and I'm about to be mad AF. You know, if you know, you know. I'm into it too. It's weird. I don't usually listen to people arguing, let alone I don't even like to argue with people. I don't feel like, unless I have to, I don't feel like it's worth my energy. So I don't give it the time of day, but this is something else. It's a different type of thing. Hey, Amy, I saw Debbie. Thank you, Amy, for the super chat. Hope you didn't get Kinsey. I did. I was like, I need a break from this girl. Sunshine. No Skippy. Exactly. No Skippy. Hey, Tia. Hey, Patty. Hey, Stephanie. Don't skip. Okay. I'm not. I didn't want to. So I was like, oh, don't unsubscribe. Hi, Cree. For rugs. She's gone a ticket for rugs. Oh, okay. Thank you, Dana. I love listening to you. I'm dialed in. This is my note. I know. That's why I'm like, okay, I'll try to do more so we can get through 2020 really fast. So I am, like I said, I am taking a whole day off so I can do an extra Mackenzie live on Friday, like an extra long one. So let's get started. We left off on, oh, let me make it small. Oh, that's what I wanted. Okay. Sorry, StreamYard. So we left off on December the 3rd, and he was like, okay, let's see. They were arguing about something. Well, aren't they always? He says, okay, let me go back. Do I have short-term memory or what? Because I'm not remembering this. They're fighting. Okay, let's go here. I went back like 7 pages. She says, makes zero sense. Cool, he says. She says, why are you being mean? Whatever, Dom. You're being really petty for no reason. And he says, okay, I'm sorry. She says, K, I'm off at 8. This is December 3rd. He says, okay. She says, that's all you're going to say? Whatever. She says, dry AF. Okay, so that was 12:3. So then we start on 12:4. Okay. I was doing the bitch. Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. And Body Nature says you're the best and I'm obsessed. Hey, Joker. Hi, Babelets. Is it me? Is what you? Imagine how long would be. Yeah, I know. Crazy. Hey, Jamie. Mackenzie has had too much of a coddled life. Yeah. Deserves to be in prison. I did see the Shirilla post on his birthday. Crazy. No cheating, please. Okay. C Tippy. Hey, C Tippy. Okay, let's get started. So we're on the 12:4. She says, morning, my babe. Oh, let me get the mouse out of the way. She says, morning, my babe. He says, good morning, babe. Love you. Okay, so they were just fighting, but no. She says, love you lots, babe. How'd you sleep? He says, I'm about to probably go back to sleep. She says, aw, my sleepy little babe. He says, I'm so tired. She says, why, baby? He says, I don't know. I was up past 1. She says, what are you doing now? It's 11:24 a.m. And she says, I'm with Kendra. He says, really? Is Brennan there? She says, hell nah. He says, oh. He sent me an Addy that seemed like Kendra's house. She says, we at my house. Dom says, I'm giving him pre-rolls. She says, LMAO. I feel bad for him, to be honest. He says, isn't Kendra that Trenton Oval? I don't know what that means. Isn't Kendra that Trenton Oval? She says, Kendra told me about it in Waterford. He says, yeah, bro, he literally just got robbed for an 8th. Poor kid. Mackenzie said, right? Kendra said they punched him and shit too. Okay, so that must have been a typo. She says, and there was 6 of them. He says, yeah. She says, like, WTF, LMAO. She says, what are you doing, babe? He says, Lincoln with people. She says, who? LOL. Did Sean end up coming over? He says, I don't know when I'm chilling with them. Mackenzie says, oh, are you doing runs? He says, yeah, battle link with B. Then at 4:10, she says, hey, babe. He said, what's up, babe? She says, I'm bored. She says, I'm dropping Kendra off. I'm about to just kick it. He says, nice. I got to do more shit. Come. She says, will you be free? Maybe. He says, when? I've had a long day, low key. She says, anytime. He says, okay, bet. She says, I want to hang when you can. He says, I will let you know when I can, baby. We can have sleepover. She says, yay, I'm excited. He says, babe, download Signal. She says, okay, I will. I made it. Bruh. Sheen about to piss me off. Like, he can leave. Oh, okay. So they must be hanging out. Okay, let's go back. Start over. She says, bruh, at 9:19 p.m. Sheen about to piss me off. Like, he can leave. When is he leaving? And where even are you? Question mark, exclamation, question mark. He says, why, babe? What he do? She says, where are you? I don't want to hang with Sheen. She says, okay, babe, he will leave soon. He says, I'm shitting. She says, can we leave now? Oh, so they must have gone somewhere. Dom says, why? She says, or when you're out. He says, I'm not going to make him leave. He's been chilling with Angelo anyway. Okay, so he is over there. I thought they were maybe at his house. Sheen is over at Dom's, it sounds like. And Mackenzie says, I'm going to just rest my eyes, I guess. Babe, she says, I have to leave at 45, but I know you don't really care. This is at what? Oh, hold on. Let me go back. We skipped a day. No, she says, I'm going to just rest my eyes, I guess. That was at 9:23 p.m. Then the next day at 2:20 p.m., she says, babe, she says, I have to leave at 45, but I know you don't really care. I want you to be happy, babe. She says, babe. Then she says, I came to work early. He says, love you, babe. When do you work? She says 3:30. I could have stayed more. She said, I'm so sad right now. He said, oh, damn. Go grab some food. You didn't eat, babe. She says, I had a little egg and now I'm eating chocolate, but I'll go walk around. She says, I want to come back. He says, I was going to go eat, but then I just said, nah, my mom got rid of the French toast. She says, for real? I had a little bit of some bacon, a little bite of some bacon. He says, she thought you didn't like it. Mackenzie says, I didn't even have any. I was waiting for you. She asked me that and I told her I was waiting for you. And Dom says, because I bit one and spit it out in the sink, but I was too mad to eat. I'm honestly more mad. She says, I'm sorry, babe. He says, yeah, honestly, I don't know what to do with life anymore. Okay, this is like a pattern. I said this before. It's a pattern. There's like some weeks he has some really bad days where he's like really down. I don't know what happens or like what kind of things were going on in the home life that we don't know about. But it's just like, here we go again, you know, like talking about he doesn't like his life. These kids have no clue about life whatsoever. Hey, Joyce, come in. Hey, Abuelita. Thanks, I try to do that. Oh, Jamie, we love you. Oh, Tammy became a new member. I missed that. Hey, Tammy girl. Hey, Babelet. You are now a Babelet. I must make another level for the membership for all the Babelets. If you know, you know. If you don't, sucks for you. I wonder if he has somatic issues tied to his depression. Yeah, something, girl. Like, this is not normal. Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe he just can't, like, talk to Mackenzie, you know, because she's something else. So maybe he feels like he has no one he can really depend on and she's, like, too mature. You know what I mean? That sucks, too. If he is having, like, mental health issues. Anyways, okay, so he says, yeah, honestly, I don't know what to do with life anymore. She says, what do you mean, babe? With me? Can I call you? Then they start playing Woodhunt. Ew. She says, I didn't brush my teeth at 3:20 p.m. He says, damn. Me neither. Wait, what? And then he says, I just ate the bacon. Now my stomach hurts a little. She says, how was the bacon? Sorry, it's hella busy, she says. He said, you're good. It was aight. She said, it was kind of good. He said, what was? She said, I meant it's kind of good. Like it's busy AF. He said, oh, LOL. She says, question mark 4 times. ... I love when you forget about me. Oh, so she's at work. Let's go back. This is craziness. He says, oh, LOL. That was at 4:44 p.m. And then at 10:50, she's like, 4 question marks. ... I love when you forget about me. Oh, if you hear my AC, girl, don't even worry about it. I'm hot. Period. So just suck it up. I don't want to fight about it. I don't want to block. Don't put me on D&D. Like, just listen to the AC while you listen to my voice. Okay. Anyways. Okay. He's feeling trapped and he's definitely bipolar and he doesn't know what to. You know, someone in the comments was like, Melly, he's not bipolar. And I'm like, okay, maybe not. But what is this? Like, what is this BS that he keeps doing or whatever it is that's going on? Hi, Miss BS. Oh, I like that name. Hello. Has now become a babelet. Their relationship exudes toxicity. Oh, it's way more than toxicity, Miss O. This is crazy. Dom says, I don't know what to do about life anymore. And her first response is, what do you mean about me? It was all about her, girl. It was all about her. Again, remember, she's like 16 here, I think. This is kind of young well, I don't know. I was a rebel, so don't include me in that, but I think it's kind of young. She says, okay, Dom, so let's go back to this. She says, I love when you forget about me. Then at 11 p.m., she says, okay, Dom, question mark. What the F is happening? Babe, can I come to you? Oh, wait, let's go back. So she says, what the F is happening? Oh, they totally went on. Sorry, I didn't realize the day skipped. So on 12/5 at 11 p.m., she says, okay, Dom. Then the next day, well, it's at 12:42 in the morning. She says, question mark. And then it skips to the next day in the afternoon, in the evening. She says at 8:06 on 12/6. She says, WTF is happening? Babe, can I come to you? Oh, okay, yeah. So then she says the next day on the 7th, she says, morning, babe. I love you so effing much at 6:32 a.m. She sends an emoji. He says, good morning, babe. How is your day? She says, it's going good except for Faith being annoying. He says, nice. She says, LMAO. He says, I'm about to go chill with B and Jared. She says, oh, that sounds fun. She says, I'm going to hang with Kendra. He says, yeah, I think B making breakfast. Then he says, we will never own a dog or cat or anything. He says, I'm done with animals. That's on God. I'll never let another dirty effing animal anywhere I live. Wait, what? Okay. What? I love animals. I like animals more than humans. No offense, babes. I love you guys, babelets, but if you know, you know what I mean. Gasp. Gasp. Gasp is right. She says, it's cute how y'all do that. She's what? She says, when you coming home? He says, I didn't leave yet. She says, when you going? I want to hang. He says, on the way right now. She says, oh, okay. When you coming back? She says, babe. He says, I don't know. He says, Jared didn't get here. Me and B rolling a blunt. She said, oh, damn. I miss you, babe. He says, I miss you too, babe. She says, when you're home, let me know ASAP. He says, okay. She says, babe, at 1:53 p.m. He says, what's up? She says, are you home? Are you? He says, no, we just ate. She says, someone's at your house. When I was driving home, I seen some car pull in. Why does she always be spying on the driveway? Like, why does she do that? She says when she's driving home, I'm starting to wonder if she's just like spying out there with binoculars. You know what I mean? Like in the movies, like when people, like in is it Disturbia? Where Shia LaBeouf is like looking through the binoculars. If you know, you know. Mental issues that he needs to take care of. It looked like her home had a crap ton of animals. Yeah, remember she was saving kitties. She was rescuing kitties. She's looking for cops. She's playing up his paranoia. She's always begging. Kenzie has at least 3 cats and 2 dogs. So I think Dom's just in a mood here. I don't think he hates animals. I just think he's having like an angry fit. She says, when I was driving home, I seen some car pull in. She says, okay. When can I come back? Babe. He says, we're at Trevor's, babe. She said, oh, okay, babe. He says, love you, babe. She says, love you, babe. And then he says, I'm home at 11:34 p.m. He says, babe. She says, hey. He says, hey, babe. She says, what are you doing, babe? Went to voicemail. Then in the morning, she says, morning, babe. My best, babe. My tummy is really effed. He says, why, babe? She says, I don't know. It's weird. And we gotta have right after Polaris. I work and have a dentist appointment. He says, what? She says, we gotta hang after she's done with school. She says, I have a dentist appointment and work today, babe. She says, dentist at 2, work at 4. He says, damn, that's a busy day, babe. She says, I know, and I feel like shit. He says, I'm sorry, babe. Are you coming over before the dentist? She says, just got home. I'm going to smoke with Kendra and then come over. He says, okay. She says, coming now. She says, turns out I'm just going to some shit place in Strongsville. Not the good place. He says, LOL. She says, I'm kind of annoyed, to be honest. He said, it's okay. Probably just a checkup. She says, yeah, it is. He says, then it doesn't really matter which place. She said, still annoying though. She says, I might be able to come back. He says, when? She says, after my appointment. He says, okay, I don't know. I'll pull up to Trevor's now or later then. I don't know. She says, well, let me know, babe. I want to hang after work. He says, okay. She says, I'd rather you go so we can hang after work, but this won't take long. He says, okay. I'm probably just going to eat a snack, then go. She says, okay, bet. Keep your phone nearby. He says, okay. She says, about to be back. This is at 2:38 p.m. Want to hang? He says, yeah, I just got on the, I don't know what that is. Is that a typo? I don't know. She says, coming. He says, how is work, little babelet? That's funny. Little babelet. How is work, little babelet? She says, going well, but sad. This is at 8:32 p.m. She said, what's the oil you made that cures cancer? Really? Really? What? I've had a long day. I'm not in the mood for it, Mackenzie. I'm not in the mood for this shit. Not Dom finding the cure for cancer. That's offensive that they would even be saying in this text. Let's move on. I'm not even going to waste my energy on this. And she says, or helps it. More like helps it. He says, RSO oil. She says, can I come over? She says, after work at 9. He says, yeah. She says, yay. 12:09 at 7:16 a.m. the next morning. She says, morning, babe. He says, good morning, babe. She says, want to hang today? He says, yeah. I'm going to see if I can get sales. And then she said, salsa, because he did a typo. He's like, we can salsa if you want. She said, LOL, how many you got? I'm going to do the usual with Kendra, then come over. He said, for sure. I don't got any right now. I'm going to try and get some. She says, Kristen want to hang with me. I might go. He says, nah, don't even. She says, and Kristen is asking about Kyle's party, if she wants it planned. Dom says, she's just going to be a bitch. Mackenzie says, why, babe? I need friends. I don't know. I might not. He says, who does she want me to invite? Mackenzie said, the boys and shit. Dom says, who is that though? She says, Jared and that kind of people. Him and B. Dom says, bet. A few more than B than Jared. Now almost Jared been a bitch lately. Mackenzie says, just guys that you and Kyle get along with. Kristen wants it to be good for him. I honestly agree. Dom says, yeah, but he's probably just going through some shit. Think about it. If he lives at that shitty house and B is like white privilege, just black version. Mackenzie says, for real though. He says the 12th, right? She says, yeah. She sends an address. Kyle's surprise birthday. She said, that's what she said. Dom said, bet. Then he says, I might have to cop one of these. And he sends slippers, 2 pictures of slippers. He says, can you help me find something for my mom too? She says, yes, babe. She said, those are cool. She says, if you get those, I'll get the girl red ones. What are you doing now? He says, I'm chilling, probably about a shower. She says, when do you want to hang, babe? He says, I don't know, whenever you want to, babe. She says, did you eat breakfast? Wait, I told Kristen I can probably hang out with her though. I want to hang with you though. I can eat right now before I come if you want. I'm going to make a little bit. He says, Sean wants to link. She said, when? He says, hour and a half. She says, damn, babe. He says, so you can hang with whoever and I'll hang with Sean. She says, I want babe. Can I come after? I want to watch movies. He says, babe, you can come right now if you want. She says, then I'm going to leave soon. AF. What time? She says, I can come now. He says, Sean said half an hour, so you can leave around then because I think I'm going to slide to his apartment so I can just drive you home, actually. I'm also going to be showering and stuff for a bit, though. She said, please, I'm going to come. I'm coming. He said, okay, yeah, come. He says, I didn't say you couldn't. She said it was spell check, LOL. He says, I'll drop you off when I go to Sean's. She says, but yeah, I'm peeing, then I'm going to go. He says, when you go and check on Nico. She says, doing it now. Then she says, what are you doing? He says, chilling with Sean still. She says, how is it? He says, dope. About to get some food real quick. She says, oh, what food? I want Chinese, she says. Dom says, we're getting tacos. Mackenzie said, your mom is spamming me about Nico. LOL. Dom said, LOL, what is she saying? Mackenzie sends a screenshot of the message that I can't see. Dom says, tell her he pooped, you were there. What? She says, I'm okay. Let's go back to what's that date? 12:09 at 4:46. I think it's a typo. She says, I'm cleaning my whole room. He said, that's what's up. He said, send pic. She sends a picture of the carpet. She says, still working though. He says, who's with you? She said, a daycare kid, KMS, LMAO. He said, LOL. He said, what's going on now? She said, still cleaning. Gay AF. My closet's going to take forever. He says, LOL. We still chilling, so that's cool. She said, I want you to see my room when it's done. He said, okay. She says, and about to be done. He says, I'm still at Sean's. We drinking a little. LOL. She says, oh no. LMAO. Don't overdo it. And if you do, sleep there. When are you coming back? She says at 7:20. I might give myself a tan. He says, I didn't drink much. I'll be fine. She says, look at Snap. He says, I did. She says, my tan is on. He says, how? She said, I just did it myself. He says, really, how? Send Snap. She said, I wait 6 hours. He said, here at 9:12. She says, okay, so that was at 9:12 p.m. on 12/9. The next morning on 12/10. She says, morning, babe. He says, good morning, babe. I love you. She says, love you, babe. I just picked up my school shit. My teacher's son has COVID, so she's quarantined. He said, wild, babe. She said, right? She said he had to get taken out of school immediately, so she couldn't grab any of her stuff. She might have it. He said, what are we doing about Kyle's party? She said, I don't know, to be honest. Kristen just said the party isn't happening. Emoji face. He says, let me just ask Brett. She said, okay, LMFAO. She said, just because she's sick doesn't mean she can ruin it for Kyle. I don't know, she says. Babe? He says, what, babe? Yeah, I hit up Brett. Jared said he thinks it's getting rescheduled. Brett said he's still down. Mackenzie says, did Kristen have the COVID? She says, want to hang? He says, I don't know. Yeah, he says. Mackenzie says, when? What are you doing today? She says, I want to come over. He says, I texted you on Signal. What is Signal? Is that like WhatsApp? Never heard of that until now. Or maybe I have. I don't know. Let me check in with you guys. She's so negative and that in your ear all day. She's messed his mental health up. Not Mackenzie accusing Dom's mom of spamming. The ultimate spammer. Oh my God, that's hilarious. It's a messaging app. Hey, Jonetta. Oh, okay. Yeah, you have. Heard of it? Okay. Yeah, it's another text app. Okay. She says, babe, what are you doing now? He says, still waiting on Sean. He says, what should I wear, babe? She says, wear jeans and a cool hoodie. He says, okay. She says, so are we hanging after you link with Sean? And he says, yeah. She says, are you with him? He says, no, I went to Trevor's to get him going on more shit. Let me call him. She says, when? He says, I don't know, babe. I'm sorry. She says, babe. He says, babe, I'm sorry. She says, when are we hanging? He says, you can come over. She says, I'm coming. So she goes over there. She's just waiting to go over there. The next day at 9:01 a.m., she says, good morning, babe. He says, good morning, babe. She says, I work at 4, babe. He says, no. She sends an emoji. I think she's sending emojis. That was at 10 something a.m. And then she says, what are you doing now? He says, waiting for Sean, about to shower. She says, gay AF, can I come over after work? He said, when is that? She said, 9. He said, yeah. She said, bet. She said, I'm smoking, then tan. Oh, wait. It's a typo. I'm smoking with Logan. He wants bud. I have none. He says, I'm busy right now. She says, what are you doing? He says, the orders. She says, oh, will you have like time before 4? He says, I don't know, to be honest. She says, at work. Sad face. He says, how's that going? She says, crazy. She said, someone just had a seizure and the ambulance was here and it was a huge scene. He said, no way. She said, dead ass. He said, I have the worst headache. She says, I'm about to be off. I'll come cuddle. Can I come at 9? He says, when are you going to be here? She says, I'm here. That was at 9:33 p.m. Then at the next day at 1:36 p.m., she says, I don't know why you just did me like that. Dom says, I make you and get you food when I'm not even eating and you couldn't even think maybe I'm hungry because I haven't ate and been up since 8 in the morning. She says, babe, I didn't even eat. First of all, I told you that the pancakes got effed, so I didn't make anything else. He says, and then you left all that dirty stuff in the sink. She said, no, I cleaned the pan. He said, you know, we don't even leave shit in the sink. That's worse. You clean it and put it to the side. No reason to clean it. I might just go get food up the street, but that will take too long. She says, I actually didn't think it would be a big deal. You literally left me with my arms open. I know you've seen my face too when you left. I don't want to fight, she says. And Dom says, well, I was in a hurry because Lyle only grabbed not even half the money he was supposed to. She says, oh shit. He says, yeah, and I mean, I didn't see any breakfast then either. But yeah, we didn't get them done again. He says, what the F are you doing? Like, stop. He says, come out and look to the right. Wait, what time was that at? Let's go back. I need to know. He says, but yeah, we didn't get them done again. That was at 1:52 p.m. And then she says, what the F are you doing at 1:52? Then she said, like, stop. Then at 5:32, he says, come out and look to the right. She says, I'm going on break. Oh, so then it goes to the next day. So they must have hung out. Then the next day it says, I'm going on break at 4:30 or 5 probably. He said, okay, I don't feel good right now. She says, little hungover, baby. Just drink some water and relax. He says, I'm dizzy. She says, oh no. Sorry, I've been dry. It's hella busy. He says, I'm okay now, babe. How's work? She said, busy as shit. You coming at 5? Then she says, babe, you left me on red. He says, yeah, I might come. She says, well, I'm going on break at 5. She said, exactly 5. He said, yeah, I don't know if I'll go then because I don't have no one to come with or a reason to be at the mall. So I don't know. I'd just be spending more time driving and being cold. She said, oh. He said, is that okay, babe? She says, yeah, if you don't want to come, I'm not going to make you. But I always want you to come. He said, I know, but it's hard when you're at the mall because it ain't like you work at Subway. I can just walk right in and kick it, LOL. She said, true, but I'm on break right now. I would have had 30 minutes of free time just to walk around and talk to you. Dude, just have a lunch break like everyone else. You don't have to be around Dom for your lunch break too. Oh, wait, let me see what you guys are saying. I can see her leaving a mess. Hey, Midnight. They feed off each other's negativity. I'm so sick of it. You know she leaves a mess. Better to liking the live or we have problems. Listen to Cree right now. Hey, Melly, watching from the UK. Oh, you're fine, Amy. Truth wins. Thank you for being here. Okay, so let me go back to text. Okay, so she's like, I could have walked around and talked to you. He says, true. I don't know, babe. She says, yeah, ... sideways face. He says, what? He says, did you get $12 and $20 in your Cash App? She says, I did. I'm sad you didn't come, but I knew you weren't going to. So I'm not as sad. What the hell? She says, I'm off at 7. Can I come over? He says, yes. I'll make it up to you. What? He said, I wasn't feeling the greatest anyway. She said, you said you felt better, babes. He says, well, better than I did. She said, Kyle sent me a snap and told me to tell you to come over. We can go when I'm off if you want. Then she said, my back hurts so bad. She said, okay. He says, why did he snap you? And come to his house, babe? Question mark. Then he says, are you okay, babe? She says, on the way to you. He says, okay, babe. She says, that was at 7:23 p.m. Then at 7:53, she said, I'm a dip if this is how tonight's going to be. Did it just skip? So they must have, honestly, I thought they were going to start fighting there, but it looks like she says, I'm a dip if this is how it's going to be at 7:55. I think that's the end of the combo there, or at least what we get. That was on 12:13. Then the next morning, she's sending kissy faces. Okay, more kissy faces. He sends an emoji. She says, how's your workout, babe? He said, it's done. Not bad. I don't know why it did that. She said, oh, how long were you working out? I had to take out all these rolls from my head. He says, I don't know, half an hour or so. She says, what are you doing, babe? Want to hang? She says, I don't work anymore today, babe. He says, why not, babe? She says, Cindy said I could call off. He said, nice. What you want to do? She says, want to come get my nails done with me? Never mind, she says. Want to just watch movies and shit or go explore? He says, yeah, I'm really confused right now. I think I'm missing money. He says, did I spend any big amounts of money lately? She said, shit. Let me think. Is it a lot? He said, yeah. She said, to be honest, babe, I can't think of anything big recently. She says, I'll keep trying to think though. He says, yeah, I don't know what happened. She says, I'm free now. Want me to come over at 3:30 p.m.? She says, I can bring food if you want. He says, what food? She said, Italian Village. And look at Signal, babe. Do you want me to get it? He says, yeah, you can get it. She says, what do you want from there? He said, get mozzarella sticks and pizza. Let me check what else they have. She said, what kind of pizza? He said, hold up. She said, okay. He sends, I think, the menu or something. He says, they closed. She said, OMFG, literally annoying AF. I'm craving it. He says, LOL. That's tough. She says, do you have any other ideas? He says, well, if we made homemade mozzarella sticks and pizza. She says, how do we make homemade mozzarella sticks? He said, it's probably easy, but now that I think about it, I don't want to ruin the kitchen because my mom is cooking for Monday Night Football. She says, damn, so where should we get food then? He says, I don't know. For real, is there anything else you're craving? She says, just usual Chinese and crab legs, but I could have other stuff too. He says, I'll have whatever. We just got to go to post before 5. She says, I can come over now. She says, want me to? He says, yeah, if you want to, yeah. She says, okay, I'm going to come. She said, that's when we can put our order in. He says, okay. He says, what you want? When you get here, grab the envelope out of my car. She says, okay. She said, do you need boxes? He said, no, why? She said, just asking. He said, oh, okay. He said, thank you, babe. She sends an emoji. He says, sushi closed. She says, OMG, WTF. WTF again. She says, try Wild Fusion. He said, right? Why is everything closed today? She said, I for real don't know. She said, so dumb. He said, Wild Fusion is closed. She said, WTF, is nothing open? He says, I don't know, for real. She said, find a good place. He says, Chinese or what? She says, yeah. She says, or if you have something else in mind. Then on 12:15, she says, good morning, babe. I've had the worst dream. I remember it all. It was terrible. It was Miko's birthday too. He says, what happened? She said, FaceTime me. He said, No, I'm tired. I'm asleep a little longer. She said, okay, babe. FaceTime me when you're up. He said, okay. He says, baby, at 1:54 p.m. She says, hi, babes. He says, what are you doing? He says, I just passed your house. She said, just chilling in my room. Where are you going? He says, I'm picking up B. She said, aw, sounds fun. I miss you, babe. He says, I miss you too, babe. We will chill soon. We are at Condados. I don't know what that is. She says, oh, that sounds fun. LOL. What time will you be free? He says, honestly, almost whenever Smeesh and Sheen want to chill, but I don't really know. So I'm pretty much free. I want to do the stickers. She said, okay, I'll be free soon. He says, okay. She says, you can come over in 15. He said, can I come in a little? She says, I'm about to drive her home. Then you can come. He says, okay, I'm chilling with Sheen and Blair right now, but I'll make them leave soon. She said, okay, make them leave really soon. He says, okay, LOL. She says, I'm free now at 6:21 p.m. She says, how long? She says, babe. She says, or leave me on red. Then she says, so? He says, I'll come at 7. She said, okay, thanks, babe. Then at 7:02, she said, you coming? He's like, I'm about to leave soon. I'm getting Bud for you. She says, yay. Babe, you could have told me to stay home. Wait. So that was at 7:02 p.m. Then the next day at 10:35 on 12/16, she says, babe, you could have told me to stay home. Dom says, you would just get mad. Mackenzie says, yeah, I'd be upset because none of this is my fault, but I don't want you to be mean to me. He says, bruh, I'm in a really shitty mood. He says, I ain't eat. I ain't sleep. And I had to sit around on my phone for hours. She says, you had to? Dom, you knew I had school tomorrow. I literally told you. It goes till 10:30 every day. He says, okay, next time I won't come decorate the tree and sleep over. I'll stay home and eat. She says, wow. So did that make you feel better? I think I'm going to just leave, Dom. I did nothing wrong. LOL. He says, you'd be mad too if you didn't eat for 20 hours or sleep. Okay, Dom, why is that her problem? I'm just saying, like, don't come for me. Why is that like Mackenzie's fault? But she's always posed with a stack of money. I believe she wasn't getting that all from selling her booty. Driving into the wall sounds like a tragic solution to all my problems. Oh my God, not with the dreams again. I don't even want to hear the dreams either. Oh, thanks, Tim. I'm foreseeing him struggling around Christmas, but maybe I'll be wrong. We'll shall see. I was saying this in Honey's in the last few lives, Dom's because more submissive to narcissistic. The first lives, when they were never told each other, I love you, I've noticed he seemed more in control. Yeah, that's actually a good observation. I agree with that. He's broke. She took his food money. Yeah, I wonder if maybe one of his friends took the money or maybe he just spent it and he doesn't remember. You know what I mean? That could be possible too. Okay, so let's see. He said, or sleep. She says, yeah, I would, but I wouldn't be taking it out on you. He says, I'm not. She says, you are though. You told me you're not sleeping over again or never decorating the tree. She loves his message. Then she says, that's literally mean. And you said that for no reason. So am I leaving or staying? Question mark. Answer my phone at 6. Huh. My phone call. He says, whatever you want to do. She said, are you going to be mean? Yes or no? So yes? Question mark, question mark. Do you want me to leave? He says, sure. She said, so you don't want to hang before I work anymore? He said, when do you work? She said, 4. He said, I don't know. She said, so you want me to dip now? He says, whatever you want, babe. She says, babe, I don't want to leave. But if you're going to just be mean and not talk to me, then I will. He says, okay. She says, so are you going to be normal? He says, babe, I'll try. He says, make breakfast and leave me alone. What? He says, I'll pack the Puffco for you if you want. If you guys don't know what a Puffco is, it's this like really cool device where you can put in the dabs rather than using like a torch and stuff. You can use the Puffco. So they're taking dabs right now through the Puffco. So they're getting really high, is what I'm saying. They both seem to have digestive issues. Bruh. Yeah, I know. Anyways, he says, I'm a beat on the bag. What is that mean? She says, what do you want for breakfast? He says, whatever you want. She said, that's fine. I'm going to just make pancakes. And how do I make bacon on the pan? LOL. Wait. Where else do you cook the bacon? She says, how do I make bacon on the pan? What was she using? Like an air fryer or something? What the hell? Punching bag. Oh, the addict. She never takes accountability for everything. Oh, the oven? I have done that before, but I usually cook it on the stovetop. Microwave. Really? Well, I don't eat bacon, so. Not me acting like I was very involved. I was just being nosy. I want you guys to tell me everything every day, every single thing. When you breathe, everything. I think it's always Dom's fault. I know. Bruh. Okay. She says, how do I make bacon on the pan? LOL. He says, on the stove or in the oven. Oh, I could have just waited. And then she sends a picture of a cookie sheet and a pan. I wish I could show you guys that. Maybe later on the pics I can. She said, what pan? Girl, that's not a pan. That's a cookie sheet. It's literally a cookie sheet in a pan, you guys. She says, what pan? And what temp? He says, right. Oh, I could see she means like cookie sheet for laying it out. I'm thinking, okay, maybe I need to take a chill. She means, oh, okay, I could get, so it's probably better on a cookie sheet. I don't know. Let me know. Again, I don't cook it like that. Well, I don't cook it period because I don't eat bacon. But anyways, he said, right, 400. He says, put it in straight, not sideways. 10 minutes. Flip over. 10 more minutes. Then bake to how crispy you want it. She says, how many pieces do you want? He says, 3. She says, okay, that's good. I only want 1. I'm making 3. 4. He says, okay. He says, make 5. Might as well make an extra. She sends a picture of the bacon. He says, you can't do that. I can't even see that picture, but she definitely didn't lay it out on the cookie sheet right. I don't think. He says, you can't do that. The grease will go straight through the foil, ? If there's holes. When I come out, you can just pretend nothing happened. Wait. Yo. He's like, we can just pretend this didn't happen. That you didn't put the bacon on the cookie sheet, right? I think that's what he's talking about. Why are there holes in the foil? You guys, great. Now I'm bacon. Listen. I'm over here stressing about this. My trophy wife burned down the house. No, I almost burned down the house one time with the microwave. We're not going to get into it today. Maybe on an after dark. But like, I'm with Dom on the always cooking on the extra bacon. I don't know. I'm like speechless with these. Okay. So he says, when I come out, you can just pretend nothing happened. She said, of course. How and when do I flip the bacon? It's been in for 6 minutes. He said, if I don't have to wash my hair, I'll come. Wait, so that was, okay, so it skipped from the morning. So that was at 11:37. Then he says, if I don't have to wash my hair, I'll come. I'm about to go to Joey and Trevor's really quick. Hopefully I'll be back by 5 and ready to go to the mall at 5:30, but that's a stretch. How is work, babe? He says, Mackenzie says, good. Going good, been kind of busy. What are you doing? Are you going to come see me? He says, at Trevor's. I'll probably make 6:30. I forgot stuff and had to run home. She says, oh, I'm excited. He says, I'm still at Trevor's. So if I go home in a sec, I don't have to wash my hair. I'll be quick. Did Kyle and Luis ever visit? She says, no. Low-key glad they didn't. He said, right? That's weird to me now. She says, low-key. But I don't think it's supposed to be weird. But she says, and then he says, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to shrug it off. She says, I'll keep telling you when they hit me up. He says, maybe he realized it was kind of weird, then didn't come. She says, hopefully. Are you at Trevor's? She says, it's busy right now. He says, I just pulled in my driveway, and do you want to get food when I come? Also, can you help me find something for my mom really quick? Because it's 12:16 and it's going to be Christmas. She says, I don't know if I can leave. He says, you don't have break? She says, wait, I do. He says, LOL. She says, I'll take it when you're here. He says, okay, well, when I come, take your break. He says, maybe I'll bring Blair. She said, oh God, haha. We'll get here soonish. Mall closes at 9. He says, I'll get there by 7 at least. She said, what time? Because the last hours could be important. Can you come sooner? He says, I'm getting in the shower right now. She says, okay, bet. Are you washing your hair? He says, nope. Out the shower. She says, yay, hurry. Babe. He says, I'm just waiting for Blair. She says, hurry. LOL. Where you at, babe? She says, babe. He says, we're on the way. She says, yay. Are you far? I'm hungry AF. Babe, she says. And that was at 6:49. And then she says, you're the best. Can I come over at 9? Babe. Then she says, okay. He says, yes. Sorry, I had to get home. Is your stomach straight effed too? She says, low key. Not bad though. But I've been walking around. He says, I had to get home. LOL. That Chinese food. She put an emoji. She says, go to the bathroom, baby. You want chocolate tonight? Babe. He says, yes. She says, okay, what you feeling? Give me flavors. Like what kind of, she said, like what kind of nut? He said, cashew, strawberry, peanut butter. Yo, pretzel would slap. She says, KK bet. Question mark. Where you at? What are you doing? And he says, just pulled in at home. She says, want to hang soon? He says, yeah, what are you doing? She says, I'm home from the mall with Kendra though. Is this the next day? Let me go back. I want to make sure I didn't skip a day. Oh no, yeah, I went from 12:16 when she said KK bet. Then on 12:17 at 11:45, she says, question mark, where you at? What are you doing? He says, just pulled in at home. She says, want to hang soon? He says, yeah, what are you doing? She says, just got home from the mall with Kendra though. Should I drop her off now? I can come now. He says, let me see. She says, let me know. Question mark. He says, well, what do you want to do? She says, anything. Do you not want to hang? He says, well, no, I just don't want you to be mad at me. We not doing anything. She says, well, I don't really care. So can I come over and he said, okay. She said, question mark. He said, what? Come by. She said, I work at 4. ... He says, bruh. She sends an emoji. He said, since when? She said, I just found out right now. He said, damn, that's tough. She said, I'm sad. He says, I'm sorry, babe. She says, I'm coming to cuddle at 9. He says, you're not allowed to cuddle. She says, why? He says, I'm kidding. She says, please. He says, LOL. How is work? Babe. She says, going slow, but fun because Billy's here. I go on break at 6:30. He said, that's dope. I've been doing hella shit. LOL. She says, what are you doing? Work's still slow. He said, just got home eating some food. She says, I'm so hungry. Should I get Annie's or Charlie's? He says, depends. He says, I don't know. Both sounds really good right now. She says, I want to eat healthy. He says, it's kind of hard to eat healthy there. LOL. Sugar, dough, or cheese or chicken. He says, Mackenzie says, LOL. He says, well, depending what you get. He said, I'd get the cinnamon sugar. She said, I just want fries. Fries in a smoothie or Annie Ann's. He says, fries in a smoothie. He said, yo, there's a Chipotle right outside the mall. Next time I visit, we should get that real quick. She says, I don't want Chipotle right now, but yes. And then she says, want to go to the tree tonight? Take some cute pics. He said, where? In Strongsville? He says, do you get off at 9? And I'm still in PJs. Tomorrow is the best day. Do you have to work? Let's go to Crocker. She says, I don't work. She says, I have a nail appointment at 2. He said, what's your cash app? She sends it. And he says, did you get $5? She said, yes. Then she sends a TikTok. He says, what do you mean? She said, LMAO, babe, I'm sad. Is that 7:47? She says, I keep thinking about stuff that makes me sad. She said, babe. He said, like what? She said, on the way. The next morning on 12/18 at 8:45 a.m. She says, morning, babe. He says, good morning, babe. She says, are you coming to my nail appointment? It's at Crocker Park at 2. He said, I think so. She said, bet. What are you doing? He said, at home. She said, I'm bored. He said, I'm salty. I got new Cortezes and they don't fit. She said, bruh, where did you get them from? Can you return them? He said, Champs. He said, I'm not sure. She said, you def can. When did you go? He said, like when me and Blair were at the mall. She said, oh, damn. He said, so could I return them? She said, yeah, you probably could. We have to leave at 1:15 for my appointment. He says, okay. She said, Beebs, check Snap. I'm excited. We can boon there if you want. He said, if you want to. He said, it's 1:15. What you want me to do? She said, it's not 1:15. It's 1:05. If you have time, I want a boon. But if not, I don't care. He says, it's 10 from 1:15. She said, I just need to be on time. He says, do you want to come here? You want me to scoop? She says, I can come over or you can scoop, whatever is easier. He says, okay, I'm going to start rolling. She says, babe, what do you want me to do? Get a ride over? He said, yeah. She said, on the way. And then she said, what are you doing? She can do the Murakami nails. He said, I'm just chilling in the car. How are the nails going? She said, good. She's chilling AF. He said, that's dope. Okay, so he went with her to get her nails done and just waited in the car and probably smoked. I know she was obsessed with her. She was so obsessed, and her entire 24 hours revolved around him. How did she do anything else? Phone's at 1%. You better charge that phone if you want any kissies, I'll say. First, the dump must have, yeah, not exactly. Thank you, illegally blonde. Not all texts were released, only the ones submitted to evidence. Oh, geez. If we had everything else that was just random, we would be here until the year 2030. Nail model. Oh, yeah, my nails are cute, actually. Cute color. It's espresso. Oh, dear Lord. Okay, so 12:19. She says, hey, babe, in the morning at 11:47 a.m. He says, what do I wear, babe? She says, I'm going to go home, shower, and then come back. She sends a screenshot. He says, where? She said, I don't know. It's a surprise. I don't know either. Then she says, I didn't brush my teeth. Okay, let's take a minute right now and talk about hygiene. This is the second time she says she doesn't brush her teeth. What is going on? Did Mackenzie forget to how to brush her teeth? I just don't understand. No Babelit mentioned in the messages. Not right now. 10 cavities. Shanta's reminding me. She has 10 so is abuelitas. They're like, Melly, did you forget the 10 cavities? Dude. Listen, Babelets. We can be in a relationship, but like, please brush your teeth, please. I care about your health. It explains the cavities. Oh, not Clark. Oh. I brush daily. Now you know what happened. Who forgets? The 10 cavities. Sing the ABC song, brushing your teeth. Oh, okay. So is that what you're supposed to do? Okay. Thank you, Asim. No kissies, if not brushies. Nope. Listen to Rebecca. Y'all ain't getting no kissies unless you brushy. Okay, let's see. So she says, I didn't brush my teeth and I'm starving. He says, do you want me to come with toothbrush and toothpaste? Yes, Dom. She would like you to bring that, please. He says, and an apple. What was the apple for? Oh, her stomach, right? And she says, it's really busy. I haven't even had time to really sit down. Like, I already have to go back right now. And I just texted you. He said, damn, you get off soon anyways. She said, yeah, that shit sucks. He says, LOL. She says, I'm off and about to shower and then come. He says, bet. She says, cool. Or just leave me. That was at 4:22. She says, or just leave me on FaceTime. I've been saying Dom for 10 minutes. Like I'm trying to ask you something. He said, my stomach hurts so bad. Wait, is that the next day? Okay, yeah, so it's the next day on 12:20. He says, my stomach hurts so bad. She says, babe, what do you want me to do? I can start cooking. Mine also kind of hurts. He says, yeah, just get the stuff out. I'm going to try to be out quick. Yeah, I don't know what it is. He says, almost like this weird empty feeling, he said. You know, I think they have like digestive issues because they're always eating out. Like every single text, they're either getting Charlie's, Chinese. I mean, it seems like they're always eating out. Don't think either of them knew how to eat, sleep, poop, bathe, or clothe without others' opinion. Anyways, I agree with that. He says, almost like this weird empty feeling. She says, what am I making? He says, but it really hurts. She says, yeah, I'm kind of nauseous though. He says, get a pan out for bacon. She says, okay. He says, and a pan for French toast. He says, yeah, same. She says, the stove or no? He says, I feel nauseous and dizzy. Bacon and oven. He said, my stomach is like bubbling. She said, I'm not dizzy, but every once in a while, I almost feel like I have to puke and then I don't have to. He says, yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm all effed up. I'm like shivering too. She says, what are we making again? French toast? He says, yeah, or anything. He says, my stomach hurts so bad, babe. She says, babe, do you want me to start cooking? The only thing I can really cook good is pancakes. She's over there trying to be wifey, but can only cook pancakes. It seems like, I'm not trying to diagnose right now, but I think he has like a bug, a stomach bug or parasite. I don't know, just my opinion only. I personally think she was bulimic. That could explain the cavities and stomach issue. Oh, see, Tippy said it was a pandemic, so it could have been that. Yeah. Dom was moving a whole lot of products. His stomach gonna get worse with her cooking. Insane. More stomach pain. Maybe the stomach pains are coming from each other. She's wife material if she says she is. Oh, maybe his stomach maybe his stomach issues were related to stress. I could see that. Pickle juice knocked that right out. I love pickle juice. Making bacon pancakes. Yeah. She says, babe, do you want me to start cooking? The only thing I can really cook is pancakes or some bread or a Tums. Wait. She says, I can cook really good pancakes. And then she says, or some bread or a Tums. You mean like eat a Tums, not cook it? He says, yeah, I don't know, babe. Just get the stuff ready. I'm going to try and get out. She says, I have the French toast stuff out and bacon stuff. How many pieces of bacon do you want? And then she sends a picture of the bacon. Then she says, hi, babelet. He says, hey, babe, how's work? He says, also, what do I hit, Puffco or rig? She says, pretty busy. Rig. That's what they're asking each other in these text messages. Like, what should I smoke out of? The rig, the bong, the blunt, like the Puffco. This is crazy. This is crazy. Zanny would have also helped their stomach. Zanny would help us right now getting through these text messages. I don't think the substances help. Oh, you're right. Jamie just bringing me back to life. Thank you. Keeping me straight. Oh my God. Look. I don't think she could cook anything. Just saying, says Tiffany Chip. Decisions. Exactly. So she says rig. He says, I'd expect because Christmas about to be here. Still don't have gifts. She says, oh God, true. You got to figure it out. He says, help. She says, I'll ask around. He says, LOL. She says, I was talking to my coworkers and they said, get her alcohol or some nice ass wine. He said, true. What kind? She said, that's what my manager's saying. She's rich. Roadhouse Red? He said, rich Roadhouse Red? She said, she's rich. The wine is Roadhouse Red. Or we can just go to the store and look for some nice ass liquor or wine. He says, I looked that stuff up. It's $15. She says, LOL. Are you for real? I told her something expensive. LOL. I'm going to help you find something good. She says, come. The next morning is 12:21. And she says, morning, babe, at 9:57 a.m. She said, 6:30 to 9 on Monday or Tuesday. My mom want to go somewhere with us. Pick a day. He says, should we just do today? She said, yeah, I'm down. It will be fun. It's outside. Not muddy, though. I don't know where it is. Never mind, she said. It's going to rain. We're going tomorrow. He said, never mind what? He said, okay. She says, I'm about to be at work. I just sneeze. Oh, I thought I had to sing. He says, when? He says, right now? She says, yeah. She says, I'm there now. He says, really? Since when do you work this early? I thought you had school. She says, I'm on break. He said, FT? FaceTime? She said, and I for real don't even know. I don't know if he meant FaceTime or something else. She says, I'm on school break. He says, oh, you on break, not break at work. She says, I'm in the back right now, though. How did you sleep, babes? She said, we fell asleep on FaceTime. He said, I slept all right. I woke up at 4 a.m. and the lights were on. She said, LMAO, so cute, babe. When I was underage drinking, I wasn't scoffing at cheap wine, but I was no baller either. I always had people buy it for me. Oh no, not me breaking the law. Not me admitting it. I mean, it was a very long time ago. Screw the parents. What? When I was underage. Oh, I already. What date is it? So we're getting, this is like Christmas. So this is 12:21. She says, LMAO, so cute, babes. She says, I'm off at 3. He says, okay, babe. Oh. Wait, let me go back and get, okay, so he says, okay, babe, on 12:21 at 11:17. Then he sends an emoji. She said, what's wrong, babe? She sends an audio message. And then he sent another audio message. But then he says, nothing, babe. I love you. She sends an emoji. She says, snap. He says, what store are you at? She says, what are you doing? He says, Kyle and Bradbury. He says, what are you doing? I got hella shoes. Mackenzie says, with Megan and Haley. Jay did say he might struggle at Christmas time. On Christmas Day. Oh, dang, don't judge me. I'm back. Okay, so she says with Megan and Haley, LOL. He says, nice. She says, come over. He says, where? She says, my house. We're doing gingerbread houses, me, Megan, and Haley. He says, what's the friend he was cheating on her with? Or cheated on her with? Well, which one? But oh, it was Maddie. I was just thinking we haven't heard about her recently. Anyways, he says, maybe. He says, you want to see all these shoes? She says, yes, I do. But come over. He says, Kyle is about to slide real quick. She said, come with him. He said, nah, LOL. She says, come, babe. Babe. He says, LOL. He says, I have a headache and we're here, babe. She said, please. He says, what would we do? She says, we're playing Wii. Yeah, so is he done? I'm reading your guys' messages. So is she's done hanging out? Tyler said Ken's cheating on them both, but they were still friends. She hasn't brought him up in the last few lives that we've been reading these. So I'm wondering if she did really like stop being friends with them for this time. Anyways, let's continue. She says, we're playing Wii. He says, lit. She sends an emoji. He says, LOL, what? She said, you asked what would we do? And I told you that you replied to a completely different thing. She says, what are you doing now? He says, I'm about to go get beef. What about you? He says, I miss my babe. He said, FaceTime your mom. Text me when you can. She says, babe. He says, I'm about to try to go sleep, babe. Good night. That was literally at 9:48 a.m. Okay, let's go back because wait, what the hell is going on? So I think maybe they were hanging out and then her mom wanted her home, maybe? He said, text me when you can. She says, babe, at 11:53 p.m. And then he says, I'm about to try to go to sleep. Good night, babe. The next day at 9:48 a.m. She says, morning, babe. He says, good morning, babe. He says, what are you doing? Okay. I don't get these two. She says, I'm just watching YouTube waiting for my dad to get up so we can shop for my mom. LOL. This is on 12/22. She says, are you okay, babe? He says, yeah. She said, why did you say that? He said, say what? She said that you're not coming. He said, I thought you were giving me attitude. Oh my gosh. Hi, Fever Dream. What do you mean, three guys? Oh yeah, what happened to Carl? Okay, so 12/22 they're fighting. So he says, I thought you were giving me attitude. She says, no, babe. Maybe not. Maybe not. He's like, okay. She sends an emoji. He says, blue ones and black. She said, OMG. He says, babe, what? What are you saying? You don't even have enough money for you or for me, babe, if they're for you. She says, I'm not asking for you. He says, you can use Cash App. She said, I'm just saying, and it's annoying AF when I'm trying to talk to you at all, not even focusing. I don't need money. He said, you can use some if you want. He said, you should get the blue ones if so. She says, okay, cool. Then she sends a TikTok link and then another TikTok link and then another one. And she says, when can we hang? He says, Thomas is sliding, then we can hang. She said, okay, yay. I miss my B-bum. B-bum? I miss my B-bum? Does she mean Babelet or does she mean babe? Or is that a new one? Hey, Alicia. Oh, Babum. Babum. Oh, geez. I'm going to have to edit that out. Not a Bebum. A Babum? A Babelet? Okay, anyways, let's continue. I'm getting distracted. She says, I miss my Babum. She says, there's no food in place. We're going, but do you want to get Chinese food? He says, Chinese where? Dude, they really like Chinese food. She says, I don't know. She says, somewhere good. We could go to China Renaissance. That really, really good place that we like. She said, my mom can just order it before we go. He says, where's the place we're going at? He said, like, is it in Strongsville or by the Chinese place? She said, I don't know. It's a surprise. My mom didn't tell me. He says, okay. He says, you can come whenever. He says, I'm about to clean my car a little. She says, oh, okay, babe. I'm coming. She says, my mom is getting it from Wild Fusion. Do you want some? Because I probably want some. He said, I can just come over if you want. She said, yeah, honestly. Then we can just order food, eat here, and then bring some bud, though. Ah. So wait, they're hanging out with her mom and she's saying she can bring the bud with her mom and Dom. So did Natalie Shirilla smoke with them or did she just hang out while they were smoking? Is it any of my business? No. But yeah, they need to stop with the Babums. I swear the PD should have redacted all the food talk. I'm not okay with this. I feel like I'm going bipolar just listening to their lives. Just take a Tums, babe. Babelets. Okay, so let's see. She says, and then the bud. She says, what do you want from Wild Fusion? My mom's gonna order it now. She says, babe. He says, I don't know, babe. Just get me fried sauce and orange chicken. I'm not that hungry. He says, I might go to the bathroom before I come too. Tummy upset a little. If I hear this one more time, I'm literally going to freak out. I don't know. Go to the stomach doctor at this point. Wait, what? The bud? Yeah, Dom and Mackenzie were gonna smoke with Natalie Shirilla because Natalie Shirilla was gonna drive them somewhere. Are you guys making upset mad? These two are literally like senior citizens. He says, tummy upset a little. She says, aw, babe, did you look at the menu? Is that all you want? He said, I didn't, but that's fine. I'll eat dumplings with you too. She runs a question mark. She says, I'm getting it. Come over whenever. She says, when are you coming, babe? This is 5:35 p.m. He says, okay. He says, when is the food going to be there? She said, it's done. My mom has to go pick it up. I'm going to go with her if you're not here soon. That's why I was asking. He says, I'm ready to come over whenever. She says, bong? Oh, she means come now. So that's a typo. He says, on the way. She says, bet. I'm going to take a dab, then probably go home and eat. She said, okay. I work till 10. She said, wait, did we just skip a day? Yeah. She says, bet on 12/22 at 6:30. Then on 12/23 at 10:55 a.m., she says, I'm going to take a dab, then probably go home and eat. Then she says, okay, I work at 10. Then she says, dry. Dom says, how's it going? She said, slow AF. What food should I get? He says, Charlie's. She says, bet. I'm going to get it right now. Then she says, dry. Okay, so the Charlie's was at 7:42, 7:43. 1 minute later, she says, dry. He says, dry? What? I'm busy. She says, I'm off at 10. Do you even want to hang? I still want to. He says, yes, babe, of course. I'm waiting here for you to cuddle. She sends an emoji. I miss you. I work at 9 a.m. tomorrow. He said, damn. He says, I got a mushroom chocolate bar and I don't know when to eat it, but I really want to. She says, OMG, I'm about to be off. He says, bet. I'm about to be home. She says, where are you at? Then the next morning on 12/24, she says, good morning, babe. Happy Christmas Eve. He says, you too, babe. Love you. Babe, I don't know what to do. I'm still all itchy. She says, OMG. He says, what should I do? She says, I really don't know, babe. I feel bad. I only know girl shit, you know? He says he's itchy on his pee-pee. TMI. I think that's what this means. Not me freaking out like a child over here. Oh my gosh. I swear I'm not that petty, but I can be. I have what? Then scratch it. Ew, not Natalie Shirilla driving around high AF. Allegedly. Allegedly. Xmas rugs. Dude. Oh no. Who's he been cheating with this time? Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see. Let's go back. Let's go back. I want to read that. He says, babe, I don't know what to do. I'm still all itchy. She says, OMG. He says, what should I do? She says, I really don't know, babe. I feel bad. I only know girl shit, you know? I can try to help. He says, is there anything I can put on it? She said, shit, look it up on Google. It's different for girls. He says, okay. She said, so you're about to just say nothing? And then she sends 4 question marks. And then he sends 8 question marks. You know, when I mean question marks, like I mean like this. Cut it off. Whoa. What's dry mean? Dry means like you're being slow. You're being boring. You're being short. Like, don't be dry. Yeah. Cree says dry means like not conversing much. Like, yeah. And then by question mark, I mean question mark, question mark, question mark. I thought I meant boring. That too. Maybe he's itchy because of something she used. She said she feels bad. I don't know, you guys, because if he's having issues and she's not, he might just be itchy randomly. But what is going on? Okay, so I don't know. Go to the doctor, please. She says, after that phone call, you're just about to say nothing. So they talked on the phone. Oh my gosh. I know we don't have the audio to that phone call, but I wonder if he said something to her. Like, maybe it's you. And she's like, after that phone call, you're just not about to say anything. He says, yeah. She said, okay, bet. He says, why bet? It was a joke. Doesn't feel good though, right? LOL. She says it didn't sound like a joke or feel like one. If it was a joke, you wouldn't have been mean on the phone. He said, you were mean first. She said, how? Oh my God. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell in your ear. Don't hate me. Sorry, that just literally came out of my mouth because she says, you literally asked me if I have an STD. Not Melly being shocked by it all. I'm shooketh. Day 213 of asking you to marry me. Jay Rodriguez, show me what you got, baby. Show me that bank account. We can get married. Not Melly being shocked. I was totally shocked by it. I was just joking, by the way. He asked her, like, is it you, babe? Do you have an STD? I think I'll just have a little sip here over here. I don't care if he's lying or joking. Your pee-pee is itchy. Don't be asking that unless we're going to have a problem. Okay, thank you, chat. She was putting it out there. She actually wrote, yeah. Well, that's mature of him, really. Thank you, Cree. He's guilty. Who has the history of cheating that we know of? You guys. These text messages have revealed the truth. Mackenzie hasn't cheated, I don't think, that we know of in these texts. But Dom, he was getting it with Jada, with Maddie. What was that other girl's name? I think there was another one. Or no? Allegedly. I know people are going to come for me and they're going to be like, Melly, why are you saying that about someone that's passed? And I'm like, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying, like, this is what's in the text. Don't come for me. Clearly, the investigator thought that this was important. Who gave who the STD? She could be trying to cause problems to push her. Oh, he could be trying to cause problems to push her away for the Christmas. The vibe is funky about it. Was it Hannah? I don't remember. He doesn't seem to ever go to the doctor. Do they even know what that is? When he needs, I mean, they spend all of their time consumed in these messages. Well, I think, ew. Everybody knows Kenzie is just crazy and ain't none of them boys want to date her but Dom. I'm so dead. It shows that resentment building. Thank you, Illegally Blonde. Yes, it shows the resentment building. Okay, so she says, you literally asked me if I had an STD. Like, that was so disrespectful. He says, whatever. She says, that's how you're going to be about it? She says, play, come on down. We're more mature than that. Like, for real? He said, what? I'm sorry. We can forget it now. He said. She said, yeah, just don't say shit like that to me. It's mean. I'm about to leave work. He says, okay, babe. She says, I'm going to shower. You can come over while I shower, though, if you want. He said, okay. She says, when we hanging? He says, I don't know. We're on the way back to Kyle's right now. She says, I want to hang. He says, I'm about to be home. She says, well, can I come over? Or do you... Wait, so they're done with that conversation. So she said, or do you want to come here? He says, I don't know what you want to do. I can come over with an early gift. He says, but I would be your big gift. Excuse me? Are they trying to be sexy? Because I don't need that. Okay. Thanks. Let's move on. He's probably so turned off by her because of all the fighting. Oh, okay. Are you a lawyer? I'm your lawyer, Batto. I wonder a ton after listening to these texts. I start feeling certain ways, but then I watch your Instagram and TikToks and I don't know. Okay. He says, but I'd be your big gift. ... Awkward. He says, and I'm going to get you something else, but you're going to have to tell me what, because I didn't know what to get. She says, I don't know if you want, you can, but you know I like surprises. And same, I want you to get something, but I need you to pick. He says, give you early gift or you pick. She says, I don't know about the early gift. It's up to you. And I'll pick. I also have something you need to pick. She says, I might need to run somewhere real quick though. He says, oh, okay, well, you can just get it if you want. Let me know. He says, I think you might want it. She said, fine. If you think I want it, smiley face, give me 20 minutes. I need to get some stuff real quick. He said, okay, if you're driving, be careful. Very careful, he said. And she says, I will, babes. I'm with my mom. He said, okay, babes. Then he said, you're not allowed to drive. She says, I'm driving, baby. I'm safe, though. Don't worry. And wear a white shirt over. He says, a white shirt over what? She says, over to my house. He says, oh, you want me to come over? Okay, honestly, could you come here? Oh my gosh. Here we go. This is on Christmas Eve at 3:51 p.m. He says, could you come here? I'm itchy and I don't want to walk around all weird or have to explain it. Excuse me? You can't do Christmas because of this issue? I don't know. It was a pandemic. Could you have had like a telehealth call? You know, like, I don't know. These teenagers. She's crazy. I'm crazy. She tells him what color shirt to wear. Hey, Sarah. Right over his head. Why? Wait, why isn't she allowed to drive? Penicillin sounds like a good gift unless you're allergic. I'm sorry, I have to laugh about that. Are they doing matching pajamas? I don't know. He's like, I'll give you a big gift, but it's itchy. He's avoiding the Christmas gatherings, it seems. Anyways, okay, so he says, I'm itchy and I don't want to walk around or all weird and have to explain it. She said, yes, I can come over. Do you want part of your gift? He says, if you want to give me early gift, I can give you your gift. She says, I don't know. I do and I don't. He said, will you ask if I wanted part of yours? Actually, I only got you 2 gifts right now. And maybe not. She said, I have 2 also. And do you want your gift though? It's the small part. He said, maybe. He said, you have to decide for real. She says, I'm wrapping a present right now. Babe, do you want your gift? Yes or no? And he said, babe, you decide. She says, babe. He says, what? She says, I think I'm going to bring a gift. You would probably want it also. He said, okay, so do you want yours then? She said, I don't know. I'm going to give you a little one. Or want to just do all tomorrow. And then she says, I love you, babe, at 11:16. He says, love you, babe. Oh, Lord. So that was at 11:17 p.m. He says, this Christmas is terrible. Wait, Jamie called this the itchy tip. Ew. You know, we're not being mean. We just wish they could get the help that they want with some cream or something, you know? Oh, Lord. Yeah, I don't know. He said, this Christmas is terrible. It's not even Christmas yet. It's 12:24 at 11:17 p.m. They have like 43 minutes. Anyways, he said, this Christmas is terrible. He says, I just had to get up and get my phone. She says, why, babe? He said, because it's terrible. Worst one yet. Okay. The dramatics here, like, take it down a notch. I'm just, you know, like, it needs to go down a notch. Itchy and scratchy. Why is she telling everyone? I don't know. I want to know what they gave each other. Itching you a Merry Christmas. I was saying. He says, worst one yet. She says, it's not though. It's just a bad year. Why are you being kind of mean right now? He said, maybe because I'm freezing my ass off. I just told Ashish to go F himself. Mackenzie said, why? Babe, what is going on with you? Dom says, he's weird AF. She says, why? Dom says, he didn't even come over and he sent me some weird shit. And Mackenzie says, oh yeah, me and Angela were talking about it. What did he send you? Dom sends a screenshot and another screenshot. Oh my God, I can't see it. We can't see it here. It might come up in the text that we're gonna in the Snapchats later or whatever. But there are 2 screenshots. Okay, wait. Tea time. Okay. He says, wait, who is Ashish? She says, what did he send you? He sends a screenshot and Ashish sent him kissy faces. You know, the little like emoji kissy face like that. So then Dom says, he said, girl, like that N-word sus. She said, WTF? He says, I'd have to show you the convo. Mackenzie says, why the F did he send you that? Is that him talking to a girl? Dom sends another screenshot and another screenshot. Dom says, I don't know, F him for real. Mackenzie says, yeah, what the F? He just lied to Angelo hard AF too. He showed Angelo he almost hit a tree. That's why he didn't come over. Dom says, really? Why did he say that? And how he know it's a lie? Mackenzie says, I don't know if it's a lie. But that's what he told Angelo. While you were sleeping, I was talking to him about it. And Dom says, what a weirdo. Mackenzie says, yeah, honestly, it's a little effed. Want to FaceTime soon? He says, maybe. She sends a picture of herself. I'll show you guys that one later if it's in the snap. She says, Merry Christmas, babe. I don't know. Like, was he saying that hashish or not hashish? Wait, what's his name? I don't know. Ashish? What was that about? He's picking fights with his friend. It kind of sounded like his friend was sending some inappropriate stuff. I'm just saying, he could be dramatic. Gay? No, this is Ashish. Shneesh. Now you guys are confusing me. Ashish? Ashes? A dating app keeps popping. What? Oh. I don't know. It just was weird. She says, Merry Christmas, babe, at 7:55 p.m. And he says, Merry Christmas, babe. She says, are you excited? I got hella cool shit so far. We still going. He says, I'm just in bed. She says, I'm going to come over when we done. Question mark, question mark. He says, what? She says, when you want me to come over? He says, whenever you want, babe. She says, okay, babe. She says, I'm playing with Oculus right now. He says, what's that? She said, virtual reality. Want me to come over now? Do you want your gift now? He says, whatever you want to do, babe. I've been waiting to respark this blunt. So if you want to, you can. She says, I'm a come. He says, okay. He says, when are you going to get here? You hear how bad Cardi's new shit is? Where are you? I sparked it. She says, I'm coming now. And no, I didn't. Oh, God. She says, my mom taking long AF. My car is drenched in snow. He says, damn, the blunt's going to be gone. She said, ... You could have waited for me. He says, I thought you were on the way. And it's not smoking that good, so I wasn't going to put it out. She says, oh, well, I'm in the car. Just stuck because there's hella snow. He said, LOL. I'm sorry. She says, Dom says, my mom could pick you up. She's dropping shit off at Jesse's and she can. And Mackenzie says, well, my mom's already out here with me. I think we're almost good. He says, LOL. She still can because she has to go to Jesse's anyway. And he says, Mackenzie says, B-Bum's the best. B-Bum. Bebums. That was on 12/25 Christmas at 10:23 p.m. She says, are you up? He says, yeah. She says, yay. I thought you were sleeping. He says, what are you doing? She says, just chilling. I'm not tired. He says, yeah, I woke up. I was thinking about going back to sleep. How was your dinner and movies? She said, I did pretty much everything I wanted to do. LOL. And dinner was good AF. And I didn't watch a movie, so we painted cookies. And he says, that's what's up. Yeah, I slept till like 10 minutes ago. So it's 1:06 a.m. in the morning on the 26th. And then she says, oh, yay. I wish we could hang out right now. He says, right, LMAO. She says, honestly, I'm tired now. How long are you going to be up? He says, I don't know. I'll be up for a little. She says, I literally love my little thing that you got me. He says, LOL, it claps. I like how that one gives you a battery life. And then she says, that was at 1:26 in the morning. And then she says, good morning, my baby boy. She says, good morning, babe. What are you doing? And this was at 9:47 a.m. She says, I just got up. I'm peeing now. He says, when do you work? She says, 3:00, I think. And this is on 12/26. She says, do you want to come do the Oculus? He says, maybe. Let me get up and shower and stuff. She says, or I could just come to you because you probably won't be done doing stuff by the time I have to go to work. She said, but if you want to shower before I come over, it's okay. She says, babe. He says, you can come whenever. I'm about to take a shit, then shower soon. She says, okay, let me eat real quick, then I'm gonna come. She says, well, maybe not because I don't have any eggs. She says, I'm just gonna not come over. I'm just gonna come over probably. He says, LOL. He says, you can make eggs here. And then she says, hey, babe, at 6:24. He says, what are you doing, babe? She says, work is so busy. He says, for real? Do you know if there's any good deals going on at the mall? She says, there's a ton, probably. There's so many people here. I haven't had a chance to go sit in the back, not even for 1 second. He says, LOL, where you at? She says, still closing. He says, LOL, good morning, baby, on the 27th. She says, hi, babe, morning. He says, it's 10:30. You're up late. She says, I'm really tired. Not sure why. He says, do you have work today? And she said, no work, babes. He says, you want to come with me to Mayfield? She says, what are you doing? He says, sales. She said, I'm smoking with Paige. I'm going to the mall also. He said, let me see if you see any fire. She says, I'm going to get you something. He says, bet. She says, what are you doing? He says, what about you? Oh, that was a typo. She says, oh, I was wondering whose car was in your driveway. LOL. He says, oh, probably Trev Denning or something. I'm not home. She says, I got cash apped. What are you doing? She says, question mark, question mark. She says, are we hanging out or no? He says, what you get cash app? She sends a picture of a screenshot of the cash app. He says, oh, those are the same ones we can't accept. She said, oh, so are you still there? Okay. Or just leave me on red. I don't know what the F is you doing today. I don't F with it. So on 12/27 at 6:52, she says, I don't know what the F you're doing today. I don't F with it. He says, what are you doing, babe? She says, Dom says, I didn't mean to leave you on red. I don't know how that happened. He says, what size you wear? She said, in what? She says, I'm with Kendra, just waiting for you to be free. He said, shoe. I'm with Sheen. She said, 5.5, and I want to hang out, babe. And men's 5.5. She says, Dom. He says, I'm about to get these shoes in 5.5. He says, we can chill. She said, OMG, what ones and when? He says, like 96, but if they're really good condition, I'm going to resell. She says, I can trade you my 7 for those. I think I have a box for mine too. He says, are yours worn? I'll see what I can get from more money for. She said, literally worn once, want me to bring them over? He says, you're good. I'm going to stay here, eat dinner, go get the shoes. Then maybe we can go to your house. She said, what's for dinner? And when do you want me to come? He says, I don't even know. She says, or do you want me to come after? He says, I don't care when you come. You can come now. I'm just chilling, or you can come after dinner. Whatever you want to do, babe. She says, okay, I'm going to come in a little. She said, so bring the shoes. He says, no, you can leave them. She says, okay, I will. And then she sends a TikTok the next day in the morning at 10:21 a.m. She says, why did you hang up on me? He says, I'm cool on listening to little kids yell. She says, okay, go be in a bad mood. Please don't take it out on me. He says, well, for some reason, I'm in a bad mood all of a sudden. She said, yeah, I can tell. Please just tell me when you are so I don't have to figure it out myself. He says, I don't know, probably just getting on the phone. She said, thanks, Dom. You're for real mean to me for no reason. Thank you for telling me to call. Thank you for telling me calling you in the morning makes you mad. He said, I just hit my head a little too hard. I think I'm going to just go to sleep. She says, WTF? And then you tell me that shit and expect me not to be concerned. Like, that is not okay. He says, I felt it all through my head and jaw. She says, I'm done. Bye. He says, F it. I'll just hit my head again. Wait. Okay. How did they go from that to this? Like he's banging his head on the wall or something? Like, what the heck? Wow. No. Well, he says, F it. I'll just hit my head again. She says, okay, go do it and make yourself R word. RETARDED. She says, like, are you that dumb? Like, I'm so done with this shit. That's what she said. He says, you're done with me? She says, right now, yes, until you're not mad. Until you're done hitting your head like a 5-year-old. Okay, wait. I feel like, do you see why I want to read these? Like, I don't skip. Dragonfly, kissies for you, but you're late. Dom was in a really bad place. You guys, we've been seeing this progressively. Like, we can at this point, we can be witnesses in the courtroom because, like, we're literally seeing everything. And, you know, we're far. And then, you know, when, like, it seems like from the beginning of the year to this year to the end of it, it's like he's changed. He says, I love you more. They're more affectionate. But it seems like she's coming back at him a little more than usual. Bet means like, okay, sure. Like, okay, cool. Like, bet. Like, all right. I'll stay after class again. Dragonfly gets detention today. Bet means like, okay, yeah, or got it. Okay, so she says, until you're done hitting your head like a 5-year-old. He says, I'ma just give up on life. This is on 12/28. She says, I'm never breaking up with you. You know that. She says, on my way. He says, I'll give it to someone who deserves it more. Don't come over. She says, okay, I'm calling your mom then. What is with this whole calling your mom shit? What is Mackenzie holding up against him? Jamie says, I want detention if it means more Melly. What year is this? This is 2020. We're just about done. Mallory says, Dom needed help. He's been in a bad place lately. Why didn't his parents intervene? And he's not breaking up with her. Yes, Sarah's learning all the lingo. See, he was falling apart. Okay, she says, I'm calling your mom then. Dude, if my boyfriend was saying that, he wouldn't be my boyfriend anymore. Dom says, I already talked to her. I'm shooketh. She says, okay, I'm coming over. Okay, then I don't think they'll care if I call her. He says, okay, call her. She says, if you have any of those effing belts near you, we will actually probably have issues. Wait. If you have any of those fucking belts near you, we will actually probably have issues. Belts? What the hell is going on here? Not me being hella dramatic. You guys are like, oh my gosh. WTF. Dude, before we even read ahead, it sounds like something not very healthy. Does she think he's going to rope himself? I'm almost afraid. Oh, Nameless just sent me some jewels. Thank you, Nameless. Nameless loves me. And more jewels and more jewels. Oh, I just have all these jewels. Thank you. Oh, floating heart, thumbs up. Sorry, I just noticed that because I'm over here deep in these messages. I think they had moments in person having to do with belts. Wait, like some BDSM type of shit? Or you mean like abusive? I have questions. At first, I was afraid. I was petrified. That's one of my favorite songs, actually. Dragonfly. Nameless has been loving on you. Kissies for Nameless. If you notice when people are in a domestic relationship, the female will usually call the mother or grandmother to try to make them stop in a way. This is really sad. I know I'm being like overly dramatic about it, but this is terrible. She says, if you have any of those fucking belts near you, we will probably have issues. Like, you really want to risk our relationship like this? He says, why is that risking our relationship? She says, and now I'm going to smoke because you just ruined my morning. Like, I try to help you and you never let me. Like, do you want to end up like your brother? He says, honestly, I'll be dead before I'm anywhere near Christopher. He just spoke his death into existence. Like, what? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's actually really true. That's so scary. What's that mean? Because his brother is like not mentally well. He's like schizophrenic and stuff. And so he's like, I'll be dead before I end up there. And like, as we know, Dom did end up losing his life. That's just like really sad. Dragonfly says, this sounds like one person has some mental issues health-wise and the other person was mentally immature to handle the other person. I think they both had mental health issues, but I agree, Dragonfly. Jamie says, I've had to call the police for welfare checks. You guys, I'm very much like, if you see something, say something too. In the street, at home, with yourself, like, this is really concerning. I wish she would have called his mom. And if she did, Mackenzie call his mom, I'm wondering why the hell nothing ever happened. I'm not victim blaming here. I'm not being a bitch. I'm just saying, like, because people in the comments will be like, you're so rude. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just saying, like, the mom didn't, they're like, but Melly, like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, the haters, not you guys, not my babelets, but, you know, and I'm like, dude, it's true. Like, they're kids, they're teenagers, they're still living at home. What's going on with the parents? I don't see them ever involved in these. I know we're seeing only the toxic stuff, but still, like, all I hear about the mom is like, she's cooking steak, or I'm calling your mom. You know how Mackenzie's parents had called the police when she was younger at their home. Remember, we read the police reports. If you don't remember, go back in that live. It was like 20 lives ago because we've been reading these texts. But we read, it's the one where I read the estimate of the wall. Her parents had called the cops to their house because Mackenzie was having like issues when she was like 14 and 15, threatening of unaliving herself. Why am I ranting about this? But anyways, where's the parents? That's why I was ranting about this. Not me, was in my train of thought. But anyways, found it. But yeah, so like, what the heck? Where's the parents and the adults intervening here, ma'am? 15 or 18 or something. I don't think mom's like Mackenzie. Hey, Evie. Good to see you. She was probably trying to avoid her. You guys, but they talk about unaliving themselves and KMS like throughout here. I don't care if it's a joke. I don't think that's something to really joke about. Like, oh, I'm dead. Like, haha, that's okay. But like, if you're like constantly saying like, I'm gonna unalive myself and stuff, that's concerning. You know what I mean? Been saying that for the last 3 years. That's actually really true. Okay, so let's continue. Dom says, honestly, I'll be dead before I'm anywhere near Toph. She says, so you're that upset over being itchy? Whoa. This fight started with the itch? This is what they're fighting about still? His pee being itchy? Dude, just go to the doctor. I don't know. Like, it's really not that big of a deal. Is that really what they're still fighting about? This is crazy. She says, so you're still upset over being itchy? He says, no, I got upset over things I said myself. She said, what is going on? WTF? Why the F would you think you telling... Oh my God. Why the F would you think telling me if you're hurting yourself and you're going to kill yourself makes this any better? I need to make an emoji with my shocked face because, like, what? See what I'm saying? Alsane says, what an itch. That's like 4 days he's been itching then so far. I don't know at this point. At this point, we're about to tell him, get some cream. She's being very dismissive about the itchiness. What is going on? Like, if they're only seeing each other, you know, schmexually, like, or maybe it's maybe it's like something else. Maybe it's poison oak again. Maybe it's like it can be poison oak. That was the time before, remember? I was thinking maybe eczema. You know, eczema is like really common. Sometimes the sun irritates my arm and I get eczema on my arm. Not on, well, you know what I mean? I don't even want to know if he scratched on, ew! Maybe it's her self-tan chicken pox. Wait, a mosquito bite and the chicken pox? The benefit of the doubt. Let's move on. Shingles. And then Cree says a yeast infection. I cannot. Do men get those? Yeah. I bladder infection. The problem's on the outside. Melly, I don't know anyone who just gets poison oak on a PB. I'm done. Not done. I can't breathe. That's so funny. Thank you, Evie. Evie became a new member. Evie wants to be part of the Babelets. Carrie pops in. I'm going with these. Okay, let's move on. Thank you, Evie, for becoming a member. He could be, oh, thank you, Alicia. He could be allergic to new laundry soap. Yeah. Okay, it's that Gain soap that's making him itchy. Okay, that could be. We're over here assuming all kinds of crazy things, but it could simply be a rash from the soap, the sheets, I don't know, the razor, whatever it's called. Anyways, she says, why the F would you think telling me if hurting yourself and you're going to kill yourself makes it any better? Like, you literally told me you got mad about being on the phone with me. Like, what the F is happening? And Dom says, dude, I don't know, but I'm salty now. All the pants my mom got me for Christmas are size small and fit really weird. She says, I'll go return them for your size. I can literally do that right now, today. He says, I didn't get anything I wanted. I just got about a bunch of random shit that doesn't fit or match with anything. Didn't anyone teach Dom that Christmas is not about the gifts? It's about the memories. Hello. Like, the animation. Like, I don't even make a Christmas list. Well, one, I'm not like a child, but I mean, adults can make adult Christmas lists. You know, it cries the river. Chafing. Oh, Lord. I can't do this anymore. This is very ungrateful. No, it's about the tomato. It's very, maybe his ears were burning and that too was an itch he couldn't scratch. Oh my gosh. Travis jumps in and says, no, we don't get yeast infections. However, if you're, okay, now we're going into science talk. Unless you're circumcised, but there's some things, but that doesn't sound like it. He's the one who got on her case about not being appreciative enough. He's clearly being gritty with Ken's for too long. He says, I didn't get anything I wanted. He says, N-word, it don't effing work like that. What? The disrespect. I can't. She's like, I'll go return your shit right now. Like, get over it. Stop being a jerk. And he's over here name calling her. And he says, it doesn't effing work like that, N-word. She says, Christmas is about gifts and being with your family and loved ones. Oh my God. Is hell freezing over? Because literally that's like the one thing. Okay, maybe the second thing I agree with her. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let me go back. Thank you, Nameless, for sending Jules. Chafing could be, oh, ew. Okay, we're can we move on past the pee-pee issue? We'll come back to it. Teapot calling the kettle black. I swear she's turned into his mom trying to make him happy. Okay. So anyways, she's right. Christmas is about being with your family and not about gifts. Wait, is about gifts with being with your family and loved ones. Okay, Dom, she says, like, what the F do you want me to do? He says, they don't have every size. I didn't ask you to do anything. The unsaid is better than the things you think need to be said. That's what Dom said. Sometimes I think when he's in these raging fits, he like ponders off into thinking he's Gandhi. That has to be like an episode he's having or something, you know, like the grandiose personality type. Do you know what I'm saying? Not being like a therapist over here, but you know what I'm saying? Like he's like very negative, very down on himself, very verbally abusive. And then he thinks like higher of himself, like I'm better than you and you should listen to me. And then in other texts, he's like, do what you want. I don't know what to do about my life. You know, I'm just like, what the hell is going on? Kenzie breaks down the reason for the season. I don't know what that means. What do you mean? Oh, yeah. Thank you. I get it. What you mean? You mean Christmas. Not my brain not working. Literally Gandhi. He's older, so he shows it to her. Okay, so he says, the unsaid is better than the things you think need to be said. She says, then why are you complaining to me? He says, 90% of the time. He says, okay, I'll go complain somewhere else. She says, no, you can complain to me, but let me help. Like all this started from loud daycare kids on the phone or you being itchy? Question mark. He says, I asked for black, gray, or white clothes. She says, ungrateful AF. I'm applauding. Applause. Yeah. Reason for the season. The itch was a gift that kept on giving. Dragonfly, you sound like Hossein. He said the same thing. God family says, country, they both have mental illness and rugs are making it worse. He's a drug addict and so is she. Mood swings. Yo, I think it's more than that at this point. Covert/vulnerable narcs are self-loathing. Wait, he's been itching for how long? I think it's been like a week at this point, right, guys? He's sounding like her more. I know, it's weird. Oh, okay, that was from earlier. Thanks. So she says, ungrateful AF. She says, I literally ordered the pants to match the outfit I got you. He says, with matching hoodies or pants, and just got me random shit. And Mackenzie says, you told me that you wanted sweatsuits. She got you Pull Out, which is a brand you like. She tried. Dom says, no, I like the red. She says, oh, okay, good. He says, honestly, I'm done asking anything from anyone. I don't want them to try. Dude, it's called Save Your Receipt. They usually allow returns when it's the holidays. They like extend the return policy. Like what needs to happen here is like, go smoke your blunt, relax. You can return the clothes unless it's stolen, which you could probably still find a way around it. Settle down. They switched places. Not Freaky Friday with Mackenzie and Dom. Kenzie's trying to be the more reasonable one. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. If I ever acted this spoiled and ungrateful, my parents would have said gifts revoked immediately. Yeah, I don't even ask for shit. I don't expect it either. I'm just like, whatever. I'm blessed. But like, you know, I kind of agree with her. Like, it's just stuff. You know, I'd rather like have a nice dinner and like spend time with my family. Kenzie literally thinks she's above everyone and deep down is most insecure and probably easily intimidated. Yeah, plus they ain't 12. That's actually really true, uploader. Okay, so he says, I don't want them to try. She says, babe, but ask me because I'll try. I always do for you. It's hard when you're mean to me about it, though. He says, yeah, that's why I want to kill myself. Okay, I'll be fair. I'll play devil's advocate. Like, what if there's something going on in his home life that we don't know? Again, we're just reading the text from the evidence package and we're not there, right? We're not living in that was like 2000. Yes, I mean, and we're not there. So we don't see the dynamic that he's actually having at his home, which could be very unhealthy. It's uncomfortable to talk about those things. But if you want to talk about him here, we can. We're all for it. We're a supportive channel here. We like each other. We like to talk about life. But I feel like here, we don't know what's going on. Supposedly things were bad at home. With being said this much, it's definitely an issue. Christmas was my parents' shit. They spoiled the crap out of us or our children. He's going through it. He was dropping wisdom 3,000 pages ago. It's very true. He says, yeah, that's why I want a KMS. So when I say KMS, you know what I mean. And she says, well, when you're mad, just tell me you're mad. And this probably won't happen. And try not to go off on me. You have me really worried, she said. He didn't respond. And she says, cool. He says, I honestly think my head is dented. She says, wow, I told you not to hit yourself. He says, honestly, F it. I'm sick of feeling shitty AF. That's a form of self-harming. That's like really sad and scary. And this is 2 years before the accident even happened. Like, I can't imagine. The itch is uncomfortable too. I know, Austin. When is she not telling him she's mad? Damn, that's sad. I know. He says, honestly, F it. I'm sick of feeling shitty AF. She says, I feel bad for you, babe. I wish you didn't do that to yourself. I tried to be there for you, but you didn't let me. And he says, I don't know. She says, you don't know what? She says, question mark, question mark. He says, I don't know. She says, really? He says, what? She questions an attachment. She questions, honestly, I'm feeling shitty. She says, what do you mean by that? And she says, or don't answer. He says, I'm sick of feeling shitty AF. Someone else would probably appreciate being me way more. Okay. He says, it really just makes me want to throw it all away. She said, don't. You're really willing to hurt hella people. There's a way you cannot feel shitty. Hurting yourself and thinking like this isn't going to help either. Like, let me help you. And when you're gone, there's no one ever going to be like you again. So I don't want to lose you. Aww. And he says, see, but that makes me so sad. There's no one like me, and I'm just terrible to everyone. Like, I don't deserve myself. That's what he said, you guys. It's like the guilt phase, when he's mean to everyone. And now he's like feeling guilty about it. Thanks, Justin. I'm trying to see what you guys are saying. I'm wondering if they all had problems at home and thought this was the way out. Rug selling can't make one proud of themselves. This makes me so effing sad. Do you think they had a suicide pact? I know some people think that. And honestly, it's a fair theory. After reading all of this, people are like, skip, skip, skip. And I'm like, I do want to just get to the year of the accident, but like, this is so important. I feel like this is so important. Unless somebody read these, I wouldn't know what the hell was going on. You know what I mean? Like, we would only know what's out there. But like, knowing that this is 2 years before and this is how bad things were, it allows more room to point the finger at those adults that were supposed to be around them, right? This was happening 2 years before she crashed a car going 100 miles per hour and literally turned Dom and Davion into like shreds. Like, I'm just tripping here. Am I just crazy? Like, am I the one just tripping about this? Like, I'm like, where the hell is the parents? I know not every parent is the same, and I know not everyone is blessed with like a safe home life. And that could be the result of this. Maybe their parents really didn't give a shit. I don't know. Don't come for me. I'm just saying, what if, I don't know. I have a lot of questions as we're getting to this point right now. Page-wise, I am loyal to Melly. Yeah, if I catch you guys cheating, if I see someone else in your driveway, I'm going to ask you. If I see you in another chat, oh, you bet I'm going to ask you. Yes, we would. Just kidding. Not threatening you. Yes, we wouldn't know their eating habits either. Right, I'll say. Or their toilet habits. These parents didn't do enough. Something set her off during the car ride and they got into it and impulsively chose. I believe that. I think something was going on. Or maybe, okay, lately I've been on the theory. Okay, remember the theory that I said when I was like, did something happen at the party and he cheated? Or like, did she find something else out? Because remember at the party, allegedly from the interviews, they were both there. Davion was like smoking or something. Mackenzie was sleeping and Dom wasn't in the house. And then like they left and like, I think it was like 5 to 7 minutes. I don't know if I'm right about the minutes. Then the crash happened. Correcto mundo, or am I off on the minutes or something? I don't know. But like, isn't that kind of what happened as far as I'm remembering now? Now I don't even know because we know everything about their life from these text messages. But could something have happened maybe? And then she was like, I'm so mad. And then they were fighting and then boom, it happened. No, she was planning and researching, plotting. Yeah. Premeditated. That's what some of you are saying, right? That's what I say, fight in the car. She refused to give Davion a ride home at first. How do you explain her scoping out the area days beforehand if it was heat of the moment type of thing? Very true. Very fair, Stephanie. Amy Truthwin says, think the friends were lying about her sleeping as she was psychedelic. Where you ain't sleeping. Okay. Illegally Blonde says, she drove perfectly normal for 15 minutes. Okay, that's what it was. That's what it was. Miss VS says, like, I have all of these, but I don't want to read them. I'll read them to you, baby. Someone, whose green car is that in your driveway, Melly? No, for real. She probably was pretending, oh yeah, to be asleep so she can stalk his every word. The fact that she kept her foot on the gas and no brakes is crazy. Okay, telematics. Yes, they do have scientific proof that the brake was not pushed. She didn't scope out the area. She always took that route. There's evidence why the judge was adamant. They recovered a lot from all the devices. And there's a reason why her lawyer didn't want, a jury trial. Because they knew that if people like you and I, babelets, saw these, we would be like, I don't know. Do you think a jury would be like, holy shit? Like maybe it wasn't her fault because they were both like in a really bad place, etc. Or maybe, I don't know. I don't know what I mean at this point. I don't know. Yeah, we have to keep on going. You know what I mean? I have to make my ultimate decision, but a lawyer advises you on what's best, right? Considering the factors in the case and the evidence, whether a jury trial or a bench trial is more preferable. And she probably didn't want a jury trial to convict her because she'd probably get life. But she might get life. She's 15 to life. Who knows if she'll get parole? I don't know. This is crazy. Didn't the detective say that was a shortcut and locals took it and so did Mackenzie? Not just the brakes, pedal to the freaking floor. Very true, Mallory. Amy says also the truth of their TikTok, she wore seatbelts, but that night she did. I know. And all the times she was high and driving and doing all of that. And then like, she like had experience driving on shrooms and being high and stuff. And I don't know, like it's convincing. Sarah says, hey, Sarah, good to see you. I believe she got very mad at her. It's my friend because she was trying to stop being with her and she got into a rage and then ran and drove into the wall. Even if it's true, the fact that she drove that way the day before is still a fact and that allowed the government to argue she planned this out, even if it's not true. I know that ain't who I think it is. Alsane says she's just cray-cray. Stephanie says the judge accused her of planning this out to happen. Divine says, I felt something happened at the party. I do. I'm kind of like stuck on that theory. I do. I'm kind of stuck on something happened at that party. And maybe the only other person around was Davion. And Davion was unalived. Yeah. How many vids of her smoking out driving? Yeah, exactly. Okay. So he says, see, that makes me so sad. There's no one like me, and I'm just terrible to everyone. Like, I don't deserve myself. He says, I deserve to be a fish from the fair that only lives a year. Wow. You know, like those ones you win, you play a little games and you take like the goldfish home. I think that's what he means. She says, no, babe. He he may be really sad or really upset right now. There always will get better. You just have to try and believe it will. And you wouldn't be yourself if you didn't deserve yourself. He says, well, I'm ruining myself. I already took too much acid and other shit, and now I hit my head on the wall. Hard AF. Wow. What the fish, says Alsane. Yeah. Cree. Are you reading my mind? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Jeez, I know that's how I'm feeling. He hit his head again. It was her friend's party and she made sure she drove. They were using a lot of rugs. When I heard about the perks and the Xanax, says Alicia, it got me thinking, how deep into it were they? That's a long life for a fish. Wow. Okay, so then she says your body renews itself after every 7 years. He says, so I guess I won't be myself anymore. She says, maybe not about hitting your head. Who told Mackenzie that? And she says, you're going to be yourself, babe. I'll help you. He says, I don't know if my body will be renewed. She says, well, the acid, it's probably almost out of your system. He says, or can be. She said, and if you stop hitting your head, you will have time to fix it. He says, I just want to hit my head harder. She says, don't. If you want to be yourself, stop hitting your head. She said, let me come over. He said, no. She says, why? Okay. If you do anything, you're going to break my heart. He says, like what? She said, like hurt yourself. Take anything. Just do anything that will hurt you. It will hurt me, babe, she said. Call me, please. He says, I'll be okay. She says, no, you won't. I won't either. He says, I kicked Smokey, then I felt really bad, and I messed up the table. She says, OMG, that's not okay. He says, I know. She says, you need to figure this out. So are we not hanging today? And he says, well, I was about to go do some shit, and then I couldn't find my keys. So now I said, F it, I'm done, and I'm breaking hella shit in Toph's room. He gets into these like angry rages where he breaks things and wants to like physically hurt things. Yeah, he's kicking dogs now. Remember, he was breaking the rig, breaking the bong, throwing stuff, making holes in the wall, breaking the door or the lock or whatever. You know, like, yeah, I can't do that. And she says, bruh. And Dom says, yeah, I might just want to take a bunch of mushrooms and try to think. She says, don't do it alone. He says, it'd be better alone. She says, and drugs don't always fix your problems. Wow. And he says, mushrooms do. She says, I don't know. I don't want you to be dependent on them. And he says, they should. People are dependent on many things. Think about it. We aren't even free. We're all slaves. She said, Dom, who cares? He says, slaves to money, to the Federal Reserve. She says, I feel you're overthinking all of this. Low key sounding like Toph. He says, when I unalive myself, my dad isn't allowed at my funeral. Remember the last live? He was like saying that his dad was bad dad and like all of this stuff. You guys, this is crazy. The relationship with his dad was something else. This is so many times he brings up the dad issues, bad home life, like but his dad didn't do anything for him. His dad never loved him. He doesn't know what love is like. And this, oh my goodness, this is wild. Like, what the hell? Mushrooms, I feel like he was wanting to go to using mushrooms because you're in a different state of mind. Like they're psychedelics. They're meant to take you into another world. Maybe on an After Dark, we can talk about our experiences in the past, but I feel like maybe he just wanted to be out of his life into something else, Dads don't realize how much effect they have their kids, good or bad. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so important. He's in self-destruction mode at the moment. Psychedelics are meant for 25 and up. They can save the world. Yeah. They're so young and their brains can't handle the psychedelics. Don't lie to me, I'll say. Yeah. Okay. He says, when I unalive myself, my dad isn't allowed at my funeral. She says, like, I believe what you say. Bruh, what the F is wrong with you? He says, if I do, I'm not Toph. She says, well, you're not going to. I know you're not. You never will be. He says, if I'm anything like Toph, I will unalive myself. What? This is sad. Like, his brother is not mentally well. It's a disease. It's a tragic, painful, traumatic disease. People living through it struggle. Like, this is not good. Sad that his life was so short and so much of it was spent being unhappy. So if he's schizo, he will unalive. I know. Might run in his family. Wow, I'm like genuinely concerned. He really needed some help. He probably feels his mom pays more attention to Toph. Mayla's mom, hey love, I truly think he was in the early stages of schizophrenia. Mayla's mom, I'm gonna kind of have to agree with that. It's giving very much, between the moods and, well, I don't know. I'm not a professional, but I could see that. He probably feels abandoned by his dad and brother took all of his mom's time. I'm just really curious, more like bipolar. I'm just really curious what his life was like with his dad. I would like to get a little more insight on that background, but unfortunately, unless someone else spills the beans, I think this is what we're getting. He says, if I'm anything like Toph, I will unalive myself. And she says, Dom, he says, if I'm sounding like Toph, I will unalive myself. She says, literally, you're just making more issues for no reason. Like, what the F do you want me to do, Dom? Just stop breaking my heart. And not my heart. Stop breaking shit. I thought I said heart. She said, read a book or come hang with me. He says, I don't know. She says, see, I'm giving you options and you're not letting me help. He says, I'm just going to chill here. Might take mushrooms. She says, can I come? He says, no, I want to do them alone. Or maybe with Sheen. She says, damn, okay, I guess. He says, are you trying to make me feel bad? She says, no, OMG, this is the most annoying shit. And then she says, okay. And he says, what? And Mackenzie says, I feel like you don't want to be around me anymore. He says, I've been alone all day doing nothing. Haven't left the house. Is that making you feel like I don't want to be around you? She said, never mind. You don't get it. He said, I was supposed to go to the dentist, go to do sales, get those shoes. And Mackenzie says, you're probably just going to be mean to me. Never mind. He says, I didn't do any of it. And he said, okay. And she says, when you're going to be nice, hit me up. He says, honestly, I don't know why you even texted me. She says, to be honest, I don't know why I let you just be mean to me. He says, you hit me up on some BS, but all right, miss, I'm so perfect. The shade. She says, LOL. My cart's dead. I don't have a charger. And she says, okay. The fact that you left me on red 3 times in a row says it all. I'm done for today. He says, left. She says, perp or green? He says, perp. She says, I'm getting both. F it. He sends a screenshot of a message. She says, babe, call me. She says, right now. He says, no. She says, yes. He says, why? She says, I want to tell you something. He says, well, text me and then. And she says, Dom, I'm driving. I'm going to be there for you. He says, well, tell me when you're not. She says, I don't want you to be alone right now. I'm worried about you. He says, Thomas is here. She says, then why the F is he letting you feel sad? Is he just standing there like, what the hell? And Dom says, we're just chilling. And Mackenzie says, so you're telling me you guys are just chilling and you're texting your mom that? I don't trust what you're going to do. So he's texting his mom probably the same stuff he's texting Mackenzie. Like, I'm going to unalive myself and stuff like that. I shouldn't say that word. I should have used a different one. Oh, I missed it. Dragonfly says, it sounds to me like he's trying to tell her something through code without saying it, but he kept pulling back. Elijah says, I bet she was terrified she might never see him again. Cree says he was molested. I'm pretty sure he referenced things that happened when she talked about him being GAY. Jamie, kissies for you because you were right about this Christmas shit going down. Years long's effect this had in me. Evie agree. You guys agree? That could be. Cree says, yeah, he said, quote unquote, don't say that when you know what happened to me. Oh my gosh, that's right. The video of her freaking out when Dom didn't want to let her inside was wild AF. Okay, so she says, you're texting your mom that. She says, I don't trust what you're going to do. And I feel like you're lying about Thomas being there. Why do you let all your friends help but me? And Dom says, Thomas is here. He's going to run a couple places for me and he's not helping. We're just chilling. Mackenzie says, I don't want you to be alone. And Dom says, well, Angelo's back now. She says, good, chill with him. She says, you better not be lying. He says, yeah, I'm going to try to. She said, okay, good. I just want you to smoke and relax. He said, I'm smoking right now. And she said, good. I'm about to drive on Loon right now. Can I get my charger so I can take dabs? He said, all you need is a USB. She said, it's a different one. I tried to use my Chromebook charger and it didn't work. Can I? I'm about to go pass. He says, your Chromebook isn't USB. He says, I don't know where it is. She says, the kitchen. And never mind, I passed. He says, yeah, I'm looking. She says, don't even try anymore. I already passed your house. He said, just find a USB, babe. It's just an Android charger. She said, you sure? He said, like a Surin charger, LMAO. Yes. It's just like a Surin air charger. I don't know what that is. She says, it's round. He said, what? Send pic. She sent a picture of her charger. He said, I'm so confused. There's not another spot to plug it. The Puffco. And she's sending pictures of it. She said it fits, but it doesn't charge it. He said, try to get a different USB. She says, how do I know it's charging? She sends another picture of it. She says it fits, but there's no light on. He says, what charger are you using now? She says, Nintendo Switch charger. He says, honestly, try YouTube. YouTube knows everything. She says, it's just annoying when I could have just picked it up from your house. He says, I don't know where it is. She said, it's in the kitchen. Where are you charging it? Where you were charging it. It's a USB charger. She says, it's not a USB-C. He says, oh, it's a different USB. He says, wow, damn, I've been looking, babe. I can't find it. Just go up to Nahables and get a couple. I'll pay you for it. I thought it was just a USB. I'm sorry. Mackenzie says, I was already there today. I'm not going back. He says, can you hit the bong? I'm sorry, I was mean earlier, babe. He says, and usually when I say I want to unalive myself is after I start being mean and regret it. She said, yeah, but you're saying that just makes me feel worse. She says, I had a terrible day. Dom says, me too, babe. I'll take you out to dinner soon and we'll have fun. The nice crab place in Cleveland. She says, I love you, babe. All I want is for you to be nice and give me attention. I found something to charge it to. He says, bet. He says, I love you too, babe. And then he says, what are you doing now? He says, I'm chilling with your blanket, babe. And she says, hi. He says, what are you doing, babe? Are you mad at me? And she says, just laying down. No, I just kind of been bummed all day. I'm not mad at you though, babe. And he says, is it because of me? She says, somewhat. It's okay though. Want to come over? He says, my mom is making food. She said, oh, what is she cooking? He said, I'll come after maybe. He says, I don't know. Pasta? She says, what kind? He said, I don't know. I just know pasta and bread. What all did you do today, babe? And she says, nothing. I laid in bed. He says, yeah, that's all I really did too. I didn't leave at all. She says, yeah, I feel it. He says, LOL. I'm trying to figure out what brand I should use to make hoodies and sweatpants. She said, I don't know. What are the brands? I'm like so unmotivated. I don't even want to get out of bed. And Dom says, why, babe? She says, I don't know. I've just been laying. He says, I'm looking at Gildan right now. Yeah, that's what happens when you just do nothing. You can come cuddle with me if you want. I'm just laying in my bed. She said, are you going to be in a bad mood or mean to me? And she says, I want to come. He says, no, babe, I won't. I took a little bit of mushrooms, but I'm not really tripping. Wow. He says, are you going to come? She says, yeah. He says, I forgot to give you a microdose. Oh, so she went over there. And then at 8:15 in the morning, he says, I forgot to give you a microdose. He says, good morning, baby. Cute babe. She says, morning, babe. I'm still kind of sleeping, laying in bed. He says, yeah, you slept a little late. Well, we were up at 1. She says, I'm always so tired in the morning. LOL. He said, I was, but now I'm chilling. I'm about to shower and go get those purple shoes, then the red ones. And she said, when are you going? He said, about to shower right now, then go. She says, can I go? If it's okay if not. He says, I don't know. I might chill with my cousin and smoke. She says, oh, well, I'm washing my hair right now, so it's okay if you don't want to. And Dom says, maybe. How long will you be? She says, about to be done. She says, Cindy wants me to work at 4. And Dom says, yeah, I'll probably just go myself. She says, babe, you sure I can't come? And he says, I'm going to go smoke with my cousin after, babe. And she says, so I can't come? He says, I said no like 4 times. My mom just got me the ugliest boots and they don't even fit. And Mackenzie says, oh no, what did they look like? He says, they're brown and black. She got me size 11 too. And Mackenzie says, that's your size. Dom says, honestly, it's just so annoying and puts me in the worst mood because I'm like, bet some new boots and then they just fit so bad. It's like me being like, I got you a backwood and then being like 2Gs and have holes everywhere. You'd be like, what the F? Why even roll a backwood? She's like, yeah, for real. Is there a way you could return the boots for a different size and a different style? He says, bruh, who gives an F then? Honestly, today was going better. Now I'm just pissed off again. Dude, you don't get your way and now you're pissed off. Like, it's not our fault. LJ says, I seriously don't think she ever sleeps though. Dragonfly says, man, no wonder why he was unmotivated. The crabs held him down all night. Oh my God. Jamie says, seems he's doing shrooms often these days. Yes. Lady says, they only affect you maybe twice before you won't have effects. How ungrateful, right, Jackie? She had an eating disorder, I think, says LJ. Yeah, a couple people have said that. I wish I could react to all y'all comments. Some of y'all have me rolling right now. Right? Taste of her medicine. Yo. Reese Crow's Grave World says, Dom acting like this is why I think he might have pushed her leg down and pulled the wheel. Then she panicked and just got worse. Okay. That's a fair theory. I could get with that a little bit. Okay, so then he gets mad because he doesn't get his way. That's so annoying to me. He says, honestly, today was going better. Now I'm just pissed off again. She says, don't let it ruin your day, babe. He says, no, I don't care anymore. I'm just mad because I have got the boots I actually wanted instead of these shitty ones. Like, I don't want some shitty rubber boot, but I wait 2 months for complete shit. Rather wear slides. She says, some kids got nothing for Christmas. Facts. He says, I know. If we have kids, we are not celebrating Christmas. What the? And then he says, they're not allowed to. It doesn't have to do with Jesus at all either. So who gives an F? It's just a disappointment. And I mean, I don't think I've ever had a good Christmas. I don't plan on having any more. She sends an emoji and he says, what? She said, I just feel bad for you. Because you guys remember when like a couple pages ago, she was like, oh my God, I got so many gifts and I got everything I want. And then he's like, I hate Christmas. I didn't get shit. Dom would have made it as a model. You think? Jamie says, I think she survived because she may have ducked and that's why she ended up under the dash. Elijah says she looked better and Kurt put a little weight on. Miss Ward says my same thoughts. Hey girl, dad, good to see you. My mom hated Christmas. She had terrible depression and SI. Now I hate celebrating. Really? Nail model. I am the nail model. Not Mackenzie. Me. Yeah. Anyways. I could see that, Jamie. I could see that. Okay. So she says, I just feel bad for you. He says, we can just go on vacation for Christmas and make memories instead of getting a bunch of shit people pretend they like. Mackenzie says, that would be fine. We can get them at least one small thing, though, at least while they're kids. And he says, no. She says, I don't know. Dom, don't let this ruin your day, babe. He says, I don't care. I'm just, for real, the Grinch, and I don't care. I don't know why I always try and not be the Grinch. I'm just going to live it and be an effing dickhead and rep it. And she says, that won't get you anywhere, babe. He says, being nice won't either. She says, I don't want you to be all mean. Do you think that sounds good to me, babe? I feel like you're pushing me away, babe. He says, nice guys finish last. See, being nice is so pointless. My mom tried to be nice and get me boots, and it just pissed me off, and now I can't get anything done. She says, so are you trying to tell me you're just going to be mean to me all the time? Like, you honestly sound so ungrateful. Like, you have so much, and you're mad about boots and let that ruin your whole day? He says, I guess so. She says, wow. He says, yeah, honestly, F it at this point. I'm going to just go with the flow and be the Grinch. Unless I can figure something out quick. Honestly, I don't know. This might be the end. What the? Yo, I can't. 1 minute he wants to be the Grinch. Good to see you, Sarah. Thank you. Good night. Thank you for being here. The Grinch with an itch. Oh, Sane's always making me laugh. Stop. Evie says ungrateful kids. LJ says the fuck. Oh my gosh. Alicia says, I wonder what the trauma was that he experienced as a child. Yo, I feel like we got deep in this one. Hey, Joe Largy says, I can finally be in your live. Hi from England. Hi, thank you for being here. Yo, it's their boots. It's really not. This is like insane that he's literally thinking it's the end of the world because he didn't get the boots he wanted. Just go freaking return him. I don't know. Get a store credit. Figure it out. Good to see you, girl dad. She's a mean one. Dragonfly. Okay, let's see. So he says, honestly, I don't know. This might be the end. She said, of what? He says, I might just leave everyone instead of hurting everyone. She says, Dom, stop. You need help. I'm worried about you. He said, yeah, but what's anyone gonna do? I haven't got any better. Okay, I don't think he's gotten any mental health help. At least we don't know that, but I'm curious about what he means about that. And Jamie says, in his mind, I imagine it was the end of his world. Shasta says, it's not that deep. Buy your own boots. Yeah, they gaslight each other all the time. What if she's innocent? The irony of this combo, I know I was saying. You know, what if she is innocent? I don't know. At the end of the day, you guys, just remember, a judge is a judge. A trial, jury is a jury, right? We're all human. we weren't there. And I guess, yeah, the telematics and the break and stuff, but like, we'll never know what actually really happened. What if she really can't remember? You know, maybe she meant to and she can't remember, so she don't know shit. Or maybe she does remember, she's being evil. And unfortunately, Dom and Davian are gone. And so like nobody will ever know the truth. LJ says no, she's guilty. Boot Grinch. I like that one. She threatened to crash the car a week before she did it. She's not innocent. He could have reached his foot over. I never thought of that. I'm an open-minded person. I can look at other sides without getting my feelings all hurt. So I'm open to that. I mean, Dragonfly says she antagonized him too much to be innocent with these messages. Fair enough. Honestly, what if? Not to victim blame, but they both guilty of bad behavior. I agree, Shasta. Absolutely. He almost made them wreck 2 weeks before. Yeah, that's actually true. Is the trial coverage available anywhere? I have a playlist of what there is available of the bench trial. And it's like the first few lives I did. So definitely check out the Mackenzie playlist. I have the body cam footage. We've read the court paperwork, phone calls, texts. I'm about to release a bunch of other content on her this week, specifically Friday. I'm spending all day on streaming and stuff. So he's just as guilty. He says, I haven't got any better. She says, you can just talk to a therapist. He says, I just keep getting worse. She said, it really helps. Like, at least try, babe. Dom says, what is a therapist going to do? I'm going to tell him the same stuff I tell everyone. Mackenzie says, no, you deserve to be happy. Therapists are trained and know techniques and ways that could actually help you. Like Miss Jankar helps a lot, but you could find someone else. He says, what am I going to tell them? That I look up how to commit suicide without hurting anyone every day? I'm shook. Whoa. 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 Leslie says the detectives had this out for some reason. I think once we get to the end, we will see what they seen. Amy Truthwin says, oh, she remembers all right. Remember when the policeman went to see her in the hospital? Yes, to confirm about the purses around Dom's house. And she remembers exactly what purses they are and what things she left there and everything. I don't think she really loved Dom. It's all confusing, says Alicia. LJ says, but she took that route because it was a shortcut. He needs, a therapist. Alicia says, whenever I watch her Instagram, social media, on the phone calls, I start not to like her again. Okay. And then she says, yes, and they will help you get through it. You tell them everything and how you feel. And Dom says, I'm cool. Mackenzie says, they give you techniques and shit you can do. Have you been doing Wim Hof? Why aren't you accepting help, babe? Like, so many people love you and try to help you, babe. He says, I haven't done Wim Hof. I hate Wim Hof. She says, why? You were literally telling me it helps you. He says, it was slow and boring and pisses me off. She says, I feel like it's the point of it. The point of it is to relax you. Babe, you really need to talk to someone about this. This shit really stresses me out and makes me sad. He says, I talk to you and mom and it doesn't help. It just makes everything worse. She says, I love you, babes. I want you to be happy. Babe, what do you want me to tell you to do? You want me to just listen? Babe, I'm really trying to be here for you. I don't want anything to happen to you. He says, it's okay, babe. You should forget about me. I made your life bad anyways. You'd probably be way happier without me. She says, no, babe, I love you. He says, love is just a chemical reaction. It'll fade eventually. She said, I'm not going to let you push me away. You're willing to throw away 2 years? Holy shit. So at this point, 2 years before the accident, they've already been together for 2 years. Oh, yeah, because they were together for 4. That's insane. The way she behaved after his death and even still from jail, she is where she should be, says Mallory. Lakeside Laura says, love is just a chemical reaction. Wow. They look to one another for advice. Neither of them have answers. They're just kids. Yeah, you guys knew I was about to say that. So his mom knew he was having these issues. Right, Rochelle. Is that being a negligent parent or what happened? I need to know. Did he ever see a therapist? She loves herself and only herself. He says, I don't want to make you sad. You don't deserve that. She said, you just made my day 10 times more sad by bringing this up. Babe, I told you I'm always going to be here for you. Let me come over. He says, by bringing what up? She says, that. He says, see, I make you sad. She says, only when you talk about breaking up. Babe, I'm just worried about you. Answer the call. She says, or let me come over. He says, I'm probably going to go to Kyle's and try to talk to him. She said, yeah, please do that. Please call me though. You're not going to call? He says, no, babe. She says, really? He says, I don't want to talk on the phone. I honestly feel like I should just do. Why anticipate it so much? She says, babe, I want to hear your voice. Just do what? He said, it's very simple. I don't know why I work it up so much. Make it such a big thing. She says, Dom, if you hurt yourself, I swear to God. Dom says, it's a simple little thing that I can do. She says, answer the call right now. I swear to God. And he says, I'm going to go to the bathroom then and try to do Wim. She says, that sounds really good. Babe, I love you. I never want you to be sad or to hurt yourself. And he says, you got a fat stain on my Nike jacket. She says, no, I didn't. Dom says, yeah, you did. You're the only one who ever wears it. She says, send a pic. He said, what is a picture going to do? She said, to show me. He said, you don't believe me? She says, I do. I just want to make sure it's 100% from me. He says, I don't care. She says, well, I'm sorry. I don't even remember wearing your hoodie. He says, I pulled it out of my closet. It had the stain. She says, OMG. I'm sorry, babe. I really don't even know where I got it. She says, babe. He says, I'm going to work my dad. She says, why? What happened now? I'm going to work my dad. Does that mean he's going to fight his dad? She says, why? What happened now? She says, babe. He says, what's up? She said, are you good? He says, yeah, I'm okay. I need food. She says, me too. He says, what should I get? She says, Chick-fil-A. He says, yeah, I might do that. She says, sounds good AF. He said, for real. She says, I want to see you. He says, we can see each other at some point. She said, okay, babe, I miss you. Are you feeling better? He says, yeah, I'm feeling a little better. She said, good, babe. I love you lots. Want to hang after work? He says, yeah, babe. She says, yay. He says, I love you too. She said, my sweet babe. She says, answer. He says, what's up? She says, it's crazy. Dom says, how's work, babe? She said, sad and slow. He says, yeah, I just been chilling. I'm waiting to get those shoes for you. That's sad. That was a good job for you too, babe. She says, yeah, I'm for real sad AF. It's me and Ashley right now. I love Ashley. I met the mall manager in a straight Manly's Corp. He says, you're so cute. She says, I love you, babes. I'm happy to see you tonight. He says, can you work at Middleburg or something? Oh, so she got fired? Is that what just happened here? Is this one of the times she gets fired? Also, this is a perfect example of why teaching our children good morals is key. I agree. Work my dad. I think he means like fight him, I thought. Or like punk him. Hey, K-Braze, good to see you. Thank you. It's been a while. Dunkin' Donuts. She lost her job here, right? I need more Babelets. It's not fair for someone to put their mental health issues on someone, even someone as mean as Mackenzie. Absolutely agree. I agree with that 1000%. He says, can you work at Middleburg or something? She says, I'm trying to work at the Strongsville one. He said, nice. She says, where are you at? What are you doing? He says, waiting to get the shoes for you. She says, oh, and she sends a TikTok. Then she says, want to get Chinese, babe? Or don't answer, babe. What do you want from Shinto? He says, I don't know. Shinto hasn't been that good lately. Do you want Shinto? He says, well, their rice hasn't been good. She says, fine, we can get wild fusion. She says, I wanted hibachi steak. He says, we can get it, babe. I'll just have to check the menu. She says, let me know what you want right now. He says, want fusion or Shinto? She says, Shinto. I just really want it. I can get you rice from a different place. He said, okay, get a side of filet, a side of fried rice, and a side of vegetables then, and calamari. Don't get me. Okay, so that was at 8:26, and then he says, don't get me food anymore. My stomach feels weird, but you get food. She says, not yet. She says, I'm coming over soon. She sends an audio message. He says, okay, babe. She says, on the way. He said, I was going to say, he sends an audio message. Okay. And then the next day in the morning, he says, good morning, babe. I love you. He says, I think you should Wim Hof this morning. I think I should Wim Hof this morning. I haven't in a while. I'm about to. Someone corrected me the other night. I was like, what the hell is Wim Hof? And someone said it's like breathing techniques, like breathe in, breathe out, meditation type shit. Let's look it up, I guess. Or does someone know? Do you know? Okay. Take your notes out because this is going to be on the exam, the Mackenzie exam. The Wim Hof method, named after Dutch extreme athlete Wim Hof, is a breathing technique that combines hyperventilation with breath holding. It is claimed to have various health benefits, including increased cold tolerance, improved mood, and reduced inflammation. Perfect. Weddle, you weren't put on timeout. Maybe YouTube put you on timeout. It wasn't me, babes. What did Shasta say? She had her hair done and wouldn't wear a hat or net. Who? Shasta says, as a teenager, I thought my mom was my enemy for invading my privacy and being so involved. Now I see it was a blessing because I was on a rough path. She saved me. Shasta, I feel that in my heart. Thank you for saying that. So spiritual. Yes, we are. What? Oh, working someone can mean to make them perform a task, run a scam, or to influence them or persuade them. Oh, I see. Work him. Yeah. Hossein says, I need a study guide. You better not cheat, baby. That's too much trouble. I'd rather take my meds. Okay, so he says, I'm going to Wim Hof this morning or whatever. She says, morning, babe. I love you. How do I do it, babe? He says, get the app. She says, let me know when I can come hang. He says, okay, babe. She says, okay, babe, right now. Babe. He says, what, babe? He says, I'm getting in the shower. I might stop by Trevor's. She said, FaceTime. She says, hi, babe. On the way back. He says, nice. He says, you get lavender? She said, yes, other things too. When you want to hang? He says, I don't know. I'm going to slide to Trevor soon. She said, go now so we can hang. He says, okay. She says, babe. He says, I think we're pulling up at BS around 5 to 6, but don't tell Kristen. Mackenzie says, LOL. Okay, I won't. LMAO. He says, LOL. Hopefully she doesn't come or has work and just Kyle comes. Mackenzie says, I don't care if she really comes. Whatever's better for you. How long are you going to be busy, babe? He says, home. She says, yay, can I come over soon? He says, yeah. She says, like now? I just got to drive Kendra home. Babe, can we go? Where are you at? Where are you at? He says, can't find vacuum. She says, LMAO, I just came back. He said, 480 views on my story. She sends a TikTok, another TikTok. She says, I'm out. She says, are you out also? He says, yeah, I just got out. I still have to stop by Trevor's. She says, oh, forget about that. He says, but I'm going to get dressed real quick and go there. Me too. She says, that's fine. Should I just tell Kendra to put the money in the mailbox? He says, I would have been quicker if I remembered. She says, and you'll drop it off? And Dom says, no, me and you can do it on the way to the tacos. She says, okay, bet. She says, yay. He says, taco's going to be fire. I hope it isn't stupid packed. She says, right? I have never been there. Should I curl my hair half up, half down, or leave it straight? LMAO. He says, LMAO, what? She says, you made a funny ass sound when you hung up the phone. He says, oh, I know I made a funny ass sound. Then my phone died. She said, it was funny AF. I thought you just hung up on me, to be honest. She says, where are you at? He says, talking to Scotty and my mom. She says, where at? Question mark, question mark. Okay. That was okay. It's there. We did it. Holy shite. We finished 2020. Yay for us. I'm so happy we got to 2021. And you know what? Here's the deal. Like, I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to cut. I'm good. We're going to get through 2021 and I promise to make it faster. So on Friday, that was a wild one, Jamie. That was a wild reading. That was like, it was like reading everything through the year and then boom. Happy New Year. Maddie says Happy New Year. We did it. We got through 2020, baby. You can say we read them all. So tomorrow we're going to start 2021. And like I said, we're going to try to get through 2021. I'm going to look through them tonight and see how much it is. On Friday, I'm doing an extended Mackenzie mini marathon on Friday. So Friday, we're going to get 2 Mackenzie lives and I'm going to make them kind of like this one. This one was 3 hours. Wow, I didn't realize we were on live for 3 hours already. So we can get through 2021 fast. Okay. But if you guys cheat, I'm so mad right now. I don't even know what to do. I don't want to cheat, says Jamie. I want to see how things escalate and by who and what ways. I know. Me too. Alicia says, I'm more confused than ever. This is why the evidence is important. I need to buy some beer. Evie, give me one. Let me get one so I can chug it. It goes so fast. Yeah, we're going to try. So tomorrow and Friday, tomorrow evening we'll be live. Tomorrow evening we'll be doing 2 lives. I'll be doing true crime and a Mackenzie. Well, first it'll be Mackenzie and then it'll be like a true crime after dark. And then Friday during the day, which I don't usually do, but yes, during like lunchtime, I plan to do a Mackenzie live. And then a little bit later in the day, buzz balls. They made me sicky the other day. I wasn't throwing up like Kenzie, but my tummy hurt. No more. How about buzz balls? I'll watch you get buzzed first. I might have to bring the wine bottle. I need a stock. Yeah, get your dabs. Angela said her behavior was more psychotic after she got her license. I can't wait. And I love my babelets for being here. I don't want to jump ahead, y'all, but on the gel calls, she never talks about the. Yeah, we'll do the gel calls too. I like to keep up with phone calls. So we'll probably do that this weekend. So if you listen to them already, okay, we'll come back and listen to them here with me again on the weekend. But Biggie Buzz Buzz. But yeah, we'll I need a whole lot of chelada. I need a Xanny. Stop right now. No shroomies, okay? Let me find out you guys are not behaving and getting in trouble. Let me find out. We need a therapy after dark. Yeah, I might come back because I've been wanting to talk about the David case. If you missed my live on that, check it out. I'll bring my Coke Zero. Melly, no more scoop. Since she can drive now. Sad. Oh, we can always scoop each other. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to hit the like button on the way out. You're going to make sure your notifications are turned on. You're going to check your schedule to see if you can make the early Mackenzie live on Friday. Evie says the David case is crazy. Yes, I did a whole live on it already, and we need to do an update. There's other stuff we're going to be talking about this week too. It sheds more light on Dom. Exactly, Legal. Scoop me either way, babes. I can't stand her mother. I feel so irritated after hearing them. Ugh. Hope y'all bring the blanket. Bring the blanket. Bring the snackies. Bring the dabs. Bring the beer. Or don't do that and behave for YouTube rules. I don't want them to think I'm encouraging bad behavior because I'm not. Don't listen to me. I'm just crazy. Okay, anyways, let's finish here. Kissies for all of you. I'm new here and I love it. Thank you, LJ, for joining us. Thank you. Welcome to Mellyverse. We're just a wild, unique bunch here. We're all babelets. Yeah, kissies. Bring everything you're going to need. Bring your therapist too, please. On call. Yeah. I'm going to tell my hubby to scoop. He will bite. What time is it there? It's 5 a.m. Oh, wow, Amy, you stayed up for me. Oh, thank you, babelet. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's bedtime where I'm at right now. I'll bring snacks for sure. Okay. Thank you. Love you guys. Tap that like button on your way out. And I will see you guys tomorrow night. If you have been not caught up on the text, there's a playlist. So this is part 7055. So just go check the playlist. There's body cam footage, all of that on the Mackenzie playlist. And then there's, of course, all the other true crime cases that I cover. So definitely, I'm bringing my cousin Vinny. Night, everyone. Okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Definitely hit that like button on the way out. I hope you guys have a good night and a good morning for Amy, who's in the UK. And I'll see my babylets tomorrow. Have a good night. Bye.